Good evening. I'd like to call to order this regular town council meeting for Tuesday, August 23rd, 2016. The opening prayer will be given by Reverend Margaret J. of the First Congregational Church. Please rise.
Let us pray. Gracious God, as the town council gathers this evening, we give thanks for the blessings of life in this community, for the opportunities provided here in Wallingford for work and worship, for recreation and education by all of its public and private institutions and organizations. And as we give thanks for those good things in our common life together, we are also mindful that there are always neighbors in our community, individuals and families, who experience the distress and discouragement of difficult personal times, and we hold them in our prayers. Tonight, we pray especially for the work of the town council and for all who serve the community of Wallingford in positions of public trust. We pray that they will use their wisdom, knowledge, skills, and time in ways that promote the common good and enable justice, compassion, vitality, and growth for the community of Wallingford and all its people. In all of the discussions that come before the town council this evening, we ask that all would listen with thoughtfulness and that those in a position to make decisions will seek to find solutions with diligence, patience, and mutual respect. Amen.
Before we go on to the pledge, I'd just like to acknowledge that this past weekend, one of Wallingford's great servants, public servants, passed away. Ernie Frattini, who was our Director of Civil Preparedness until his retirement. And I'd just like to have a moment of silence in honor of Ernie. Thank you. We'll have the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. We have a roll call for the attendance, please.
Fishbein.
Here.
Laffin.
Present.
Letourneau. Marone.
Here.
Shortell. Sullivan.
Here.
Testa. Zandri.
Here.
Chairman Cervoni.
Here. Councilor Testa did tell me that a time conflict may make him a little late. Councilor Letourneau is recovering from some surgery, and Councilor Shortell is vacationing with his family. Moving on to the consent agenda.
Mr. Chairman, I move we approve or accept consent agenda items A through AA.
Second.
Moved and seconded. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Hearing none, the consent agenda passes. And with that, I understand that Mr. Reingold is here. Congratulations, you've been appointed. Unfortunately, the town clerk is vacationing this evening, so there's nobody here to take your oath tonight, but there's some PUC business for you to hear about, so hopefully you will stick around. Thank you for your service and congratulations. On to item 4. I am aware of no items removed from the consent agenda. And on to item 5, the public question and answer period. Mr. Gross.
Bob Gross, Long Hill Road. Could be, Mayor's here. He can hear the question. I was just wondering how the company that was interested in putting solar panels on the dump or Wallingford landfill, is it going forward, or has anything happened?
I haven't heard anything. Mayor, have you anything to report on the potential lease of the landfill for the solar power?
To my knowledge, we haven't had any other contact from the company. They were going to be applying to the state. I don't, it may mean that they were not successful in getting the approval of the state project. I really don't know.
In essence, if that's true, that's a good thing. I think that the town should really use that land down there for solar panels. I don't know if you're aware, I see PUCs here, they're aware that CMAC, who used to be a partner with the town of Wallingford in energy needs, decided to build an array of solar panels all over, I think it's Basra, and they are producing enough electricity for 8,400 homes, according to what CMAC said. And I was just wondering, would the town, if CMAC's interested in doing something of that nature, which was, up till a year or so ago, our energy provider, why isn't Wallingford, because it's for the benefit of the 6 communities that are still involved with CMAC, why wouldn't Wallingford want to do something like that?
I would defer to the electric division.
They're here? Or the mayor?
I think George Adair should speak to that. However, a lot of the issues come down to whether it is cost effective. Our electric rates are below where it usually is economically at an advantage. The solar panels require subsidies, so they don't compete on their own. There are subsidies provided through conservation management funds, et cetera. But our rates are low enough that I believe it's a big break on any action to try to make that be a money maker or money saver for the town of Wallingford.
Number one, CMAC was the provider of electricity to Wallingford. That's how we got our electricity. They felt, with another partner, with the rebates that they are getting, and they are getting money back, and that's how all solar is working, and there's no reason that Wallingford wouldn't want to apply for those types of money, because in the end, if CMAC feels it's worthwhile, then why wouldn't Wallingford, for one, it's not only about money, Mr. Mayor, it's a green footprint, produces no fossil fuels, it's 20 years, and it's a fixed cost for those years. Those are things that are advantageous to the town in the long run. And I just hear nothing about Wallingford doing anything, and you go around to any community around here, and then before people would say, well, Derby's doing it, Meriden doing it, and so forth. Well, they don't participate with the low energy rates. Well, CMAC does, Basra does, the Mohegan Sun do, Norwalk does. They all participate with CMAC in the lower rates, and yet they're doing it, and we don't even talk about it. I think that it's time that Wallingford does something. You have 50 acres sitting over there. It's, I think they built a 4.3 megawatt plant in Basra with only 15 acres, 1.5 acres, 1/3 of the size of what's sitting over there. Thank you.
Anyone else? No one else before Mr. Gross again?
One
Mr. Gross?
question. Is on public property in town, parks, is it allowable to smoke?
That's a good question.
We're not aware of any ordinance that would prevent smoking outside. There are prohibitions to smoking indoors, but outside, I'm not aware of any.
Okay, so we could save your
I
mark.
believe the Board of Education may have a prohibition on school property. Is that correct? Yes, on school property, no smoking is allowed. Indoors or out.
But so if you're Marcus Cook, you could be smoking or any of the...
As far as I know, there's no ban on that.
Thank you.
Mr. Morgenstein.
Larry Morgenstein, South Main Street. I wanted to take a moment to congratulate Mr. Reinbold on his appointment. I think, given what Mr. Gross was just talking about, Mr. Reinbold represents hopefully a fresher approach in terms of looking into greener energy. It's quite a resume that you have. I'm impressed that you've been involved with saving the sound, so water quality, improving that is a big issue. He's been involved with microgrids, where you run your own generation within a smaller area. And in terms of green energy, with solar generation, and in terms of panels and storage. So I'm hoping that with that sort of vision and that sort of experience, just like 100 years ago when the PUC established the electric division, that maybe we're at the cusp of establishing a vision for the future of what energy should be and will be in this town. Thank you and congratulations. I'm excited about your appointment. And congratulations to the mayor for making that appointment.
Anyone else? Going once, twice, 3 times. I close the public question and answer period. On to item 6, which is discussion and possible action regarding collective bargaining agreement between Town of Wallingford, Wallingford Board of Education, and United Public Service Employees Union Local 424, Unit 18 Management Contract from July 1, 2016 to June 30th, 2018. Good evening. Good to see you all, and please remind us who you are for the record.
Good evening. I'm Cindy Lavalette, the Assistant Superintendent for Personnel of the Wallingford Public Schools.
Roxanne McKay, Chairwoman of the Board of Education.
Thank you. If you'd be so kind as to give us a summary of what we're reviewing tonight, thank you.
Essentially, we are bringing forward a contract for a managers union. It's a union that has a total of 4 members. However, with the presentation of this contract, if it were to be approved, the union would be down to a total of 2 members, with the positions of business manager and food service director being eliminated from the union. While it's a 2-year contract, however, there was a 1-year wage reopener associated with it as well, and that would be retroactive to the 2015-16 school year. For all 3 years, the retro year and the 2 years going forward, it's a 2% general wage increase. One of the highlights of this, despite the fact that it is a small union, we did manage to get this union to agree to eliminate the waiver completely. So it is our first contract that has no waiver that formerly did have one. In addition, we were able to increase the premium cost shares each year of the 3 years of the contract, so into the retro year and into the 2 years going forward. We were able to increase the deductibles associated with the office visits, urgent care, ER, outpatient and inpatient hospitalization. And while we did not make progress in getting the HSA approved, we did make progress in the sense that this union is willing to allow us to have the HSA as an option for its members. So there will still be the PPO. It's not a buy-up, but the HSA is an option, and the premium cost shares with that HSA option will be the same as they are for the PPO. Those would be the major highlights.
Thank you. Any questions from the council? Councilor Sullivan?
The business manager, I'm assuming that was Linda Winter's position? Is that
That was
correct?
the person who held the position, yes.
It was, nice work removing those 2 from the contract.
Thank you.
I think it's very fair. I support it. I would sign off on it. Okay?
We're just laughing.
At me?
No.
Yeah. And I appreciate all the hard work that went into this on both sides of the bargaining table. I know doing negotiations and working through labor myself, I understand completely. You've done a good job at moving some of the payments up. And we're getting to the point now, in all of the contracts that this administration has negotiated, the playing field is really level. And things are in place that will, in time, remove things like the insurance waivers and so forth. So I just wanted to say good job on both the administration's part and the union's part in negotiating what I believe to be a fair contract. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Councilor Sullivan. Councilor Fishbein?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. The Director of Food Services coming out of the union, what's the plan? Is we're still going to have a person doing those duties?
Yes, currently we have an interim food service director who is holding the role for this current year. And part of the reason for not moving forward with somebody who's permanent is that, as you know, it was a difficult year with the bottom line of the food service, and we're looking to find ways to have run less in the red with our food service department. So we're working at it one more year to try and have the program be a little bit more profitable, and we'll see what the year brings and where the food service union stands and where our food service contract stands.
So this positions the Board of Ed to have more flexibility with the future?
Absolutely. That's exactly what it does for us.
And I guess it begs the question, since the union's going from 4 to 2, what are the prospects of this union merging with something else?
It's a possibility that we are 100% going to explore and consider. So the steps will entail moving things first to the union membership, seeing where they're feeling about this, and then taking steps through the legal processes that would ensue if it's something that we can make happen. It's something we would like to see happen.
Okay, thank you. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Any other questions from the council? Councilor Sullivan?
Normally, Councilor Eterno would make a motion to accept this.
Are you the
Yes,
new?
You know that.
Are you the new Counselor Letourneau?
I'll tell you what, my concern is this, that if I did, looking at the composition of the council tonight, it may not pass. And if I don't make a motion, it passes within 30 days. So I think tonight the wise move is not to make a motion, which would mean in 30 days this goes into effect. Okay?
I
Thank you, Mr.
appreciate the
Chairman.
explanation. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Any questions or comments from the public? Mr. Gross.
Bob Gross, Long Hill Road. One quick question. Was it discussed, the defined benefit plan or a defined contribution? Is that, since you're in this plan with just a few highly compensated employees, was this discussed?
No, a defined benefit plan was not discussed.
I just think that at some point in the future, as I think that these are things, I know it's great that the insurance waiver is going and it
Right.
should be gone.
You've got to be happy with that.
Right, it's good
Well,
progress.
yes, but they,
You're always up here.
Mr. Chairman.
and I'm acknowledging it.
Just to clarify, this is not a pension agreement. The pension agreements are a separate contract.
Oh, it's a separate contract?
Yes.
Who does that then?
Goes through the town.
Okay, well then, to the council, to the town, that's something that also needs to be, and I see a couple of nodding of heads on the council. It's today's world, and it's something, especially for highly compensated employees as these are. Thank you.
Any other questions or comments from the public? There being none, and as was discussed, if the council takes no action on this, it does pass by function of law within 30 days.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Mr. Chairman, I move we go into executive session pursuant to Connecticut General Statute Section 1-206B regarding strategy and negotiations with respect to the pending workers' compensation claim of Philip Colvin and regarding strategy and negotiations with respect to the pending CHRO matter of Delgado versus Wallingford, Town of Wallingford.
Second.
Moved and seconded. All those in favor of going into executive session as moved, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Hearing none, I declare the council in executive session. Please do not clear the council chambers. The council will retire to the council office for this executive session. Thank you. Call the meeting back to order. Is there a motion to come out of executive session?
I move we come out of executive session.
Second.
Moved and seconded. All those in favor of coming out of executive session signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? The council is back in public session. On to item 9.
Mr. Chairman, I move we settle the workers' compensation claim of Philip Coleman as discussed in executive session.
Second.
Moved and seconded. Any discussion on the council? Any comment from the public? All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Hearing none, motion passes. On to item 10.
Mr. Chairman, I move we settle the matter of Delgado versus Town of Wallingford as discussed in executive session.
Second.
Moved and seconded. Any discussion on the council? None. Any comment from the public? All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Hearing none, the motion carries. On to item 11, which is discussion and possible action regarding the matter of discussion regarding the possible renaming of Yalesville Elementary School to Mary G. Fritz Elementary School. From what I can see, people in the room, I think there's a lot of people who want to talk about this item tonight, and I'm of the position, and I'm willing to hear from the council, but I believe that before the council take action on this, even though we might have the right to, we should certainly run this by the Board of Education to understand their position, as there is an impact on the Board of Ed in the school system if you rename a school. So that's what I would be looking for tonight, but if there are people who want to be heard tonight and not wait to come back when this comes back before us after it's been before the Board of Ed, then I guess we will entertain your comments. Ms. Papali, you're waving. I see you waving. So if you'd like to come up, please do.
Good evening.
Most of us
I'll
know.
be very happy to come back again if necessary
Yep.
and speak with the Board of Education.
You are famous in town, but if you could just tell us for the record who you are.
How quick I forget. Iris Papali, 46 South Cherry Street.
Thank you.
I would like at this time to thank Jason and Greg for getting this on the agenda. Eventually, somebody else might have done it, but coming from council people, putting it on the agenda, I think was very important, and I thank you both. I'm here this evening to discuss the reasons that I think it would be so wonderful to rename Yalesville School in memory of Mary Fritz. We have in this town streets, we have buildings, we have auditoriums named after people that have done a lot of good things for the town of Wallingford. So I'm not saying that they did not deserve the name recognition, but Mary Fritz was an exceptional person, not only as my very dear friend, but as a mother, grandmother. Look at her family that all came out tonight. That's telling us all something about Mary. I don't know if the council got this bio of Mary Fritz, and maybe you haven't had a chance to read it, but later, take a minute or 5 minutes and read this bio, and you'll understand why people here are asking for this change. And it was brought to my attention, well, Iris, I don't know if it's going to happen. It's going to cost the town money. They're going to have to change the name, change the signs. And then I read on this page, in closing, the Fritz family is willing to provide funds for the new sign and new letters needed to change the name of the school to Mary G. Fritz Elementary School. And they have many friends that are willing to contribute up to $7,000. It's here. I would have to hear such a reason if it didn't pass from the council to the Board of Education. I think everyone in town knew Mary. She touched the lives of everybody in some way. There are so many things, if you read in her bio, that she was involved in. So what I'm asking this evening is please give it consideration. Look at how much she deserves to have that school under her name. She lived in Yalesville so many years. She taught at the Yalesville Elementary School. It seems so easy for me to say it should be a done deal, but give it a lot of thought, and thank you very much.
Thank you. Would anyone else like to speak tonight?
I will.
Mr. Fritz.
I usually don't speak in public. Right, John?
Welcome, and again.
I'm Bill Fritz, 43 Grove Street, Yalesville, Connecticut. I don't think I've been to a council meeting in 20 years. I think the last time I came, we were talking about a golf course on the Cook property that Mary got the state to release part of the land, but it never happened. But I was married for 52 years. She was a great woman. She raised 6 kids. I worked 2 jobs. All my kids became very successful. I have 14 grandkids. She devoted her life to education. She was a teacher, and those were in the years where if you were pregnant, you couldn't teach. We had 6 kids in 7 years, so she could never go back to teaching. So she ended up teaching reading in the parochial schools in Meriden. Then she went to Hartford. And Mary was not a party line person. If Mary thought something benefited our town or Cheshire, Mary supported it, Democrat, Republican, or Independent. Things have changed in politics today. Everything's so political, all right? But I have a lot of friends here that I know tonight. But I don't think there was one person that ever called Mary with a problem that she didn't have come over to the house, sit down, and try to resolve the problems. It's not just the bills you vote for or the laws. It's what you do for people. And that's what Mary specialized in. And I think I've talked to the mayor and things about this. The mayor and I were opponents. We ran against each other, but we're still friends. That doesn't happen today. But it should. It should. It shouldn't be about politics. And I had 5 generations at Yalesville School. My grandmother, my father, myself, our 6 kids, and 5 of our grandkids. Okay? My grandfather started the Yalesville Volunteer Fire Department. My grandfather was one of the builders of the Yalesville Library. So the Fritz name in Yalesville, you know, everybody knows it. And I'm so proud of it, and I'm proud of all my kids and my grandkids that are here tonight. And I just hope you people will consider this. And as far as paying for any of the things, I said that I would guarantee if the cost of the signs or the cost of the letters, we will take care of. So there wouldn't be a cost to the town. Thank you.
Thank you. Come on up.
Roxanne McKay, 294 Ivy Street. I'm really here as board chair for the Wallingford Board of Education, for those that don't know me. I want to say thank you, number one, to the council for wanting to work collaboratively with the Board of Education. Very much appreciated. assuming, obviously there's a nice congenial conversation going on this evening, we are planning to put it on an agenda for operations, and I believe it's a September 12th meeting, if that so agrees with you folks, and obviously invite you as well as any other members who would like to weigh in to come to that meeting. And I will make sure that this Mary Fritz bio that's been provided to us this evening will be disseminated to all board members prior to that, so it'll be in their packet, so that we can have a nice, fruitful conversation. So I just wanted to say that, you know, I'll be the conduit, if you will, going forward. So thanks so much.
Thank you, and the council will certainly look forward to hearing from you after that meeting. Oh, Mr. Reynolds, come on up.
Pat Reynolds, excuse me, 844 Old Durham Road. You know, excuse me, I'll be very brief. My voice is going. I don't think it's that often at all that you come across an individual such as Mary that has devoted so much of her time, whether it's in education or as a state rep, to the community. And I think it's only fitting that the community reciprocates. So I'm hoping, and again, I'll be involved in discussions with the Board of Ed, but I'm hoping that the council recognize this and, again, reciprocate for, kind of give back to Mary for all that she's done for this town and the 90th District, Cheshire, too. Thank you.
Thank you.
Good evening. Barbara Cappy, 6 Demi Road. I had the privilege of learning at the foot of Mary G. Fritz at Lyman Hall High School in civics class. She inspired my love of politics, my love of the workings of government, and I know she inspired a good number of us in that class because, frankly, at 13, we went out and campaigned for John F. Kennedy because of her. I would go one step further because of her excellence as a teacher, not only to name Yalesville School for her. I would like to see a portrait of her and a blurb of her accomplishments in every one of our schools to inspire the students that the road to greatness is putting others' needs in front of your own. And this is how Mary lived her life from the moment I met her till the moment she passed away. And I beseech you, please, to honor her and also to inspire young ladies in Wallingford that greatness can be bestowed upon them, even though they are a female. Thank you.
Thank you. Would anyone else like to speak this evening?
I want to just add one last thing. We have a great town here. I've lived here all my life, all right? And everywhere I go, I see the name of a man on a building or on a school. Very few things are ever named after women. And I will say this to Craig. I knew his grandmother very, very well. We worked on the rec commission together and everything else. And we did an appropriate thing naming that park after her. We have to name more things after women because we do have a lot of great women in this town. If you look at all the fields in town, we name them after men. And I'm going to say one last thing, and it won't be popular. We've had a mayor for 32 years. I think as soon as the mayor retires, we should be naming this town hall Bill Dickinson Town Hall because he's well deserving of it. Whether you agree personally on every issue that he brings up or not. A husband and wife don't agree on every issue, but he's done a good job, and he deserves that.
Representative Mashinsky.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I, too, want to express my support for renaming Yalesville School as Representative Mary Fritz School. She cared more about education than anything, with the possible exception of her family, which was dear to her. But education was her passion at the Capitol, and education was her passion in Wallingford. On the Board of Ed, I believe she personally was responsible for saving Yalesville School when, for a while, it was on a potential closure list. And then she also taught at the school. So she was just devoted to the whole system of public education and to that school in particular. And there could be no more fitting choice than to rename Yalesville School after Representative Mary Fritz. It's so well-deserved, and the students that go there should know of her influence in helping that school system. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Fritz?
David Fritz, 3 Cliffside Drive. Naming the school after my mom is pretty amazing. The things she did were amazing, and for my kids, they'd be the coolest kids in the school, right, kids? But it shouldn't be about financial things, because finances shouldn't dictate decisions. They do dictate decisions most of the time, but when you want to do the right thing, finances shouldn't be part of the end game. I know that we're going to pledge money to have the letters changed and the letterheads and the districting or whatever, but doing the right thing is to name it after my mom, which is wonderful, but also recognizing others in town, as my dad stated, the mayor, Mrs. Papali would be also another, and Mary Mashinsky. Those are people that are coming down the pipe, I would say, that will be well-deserved honor, and as is Mr. Parisi. But we have a wonderful location in Yalesville. Yalesville is a great district, and the people that have come out of the Yalesville area have done so much, and Yalesville School has produced so many, that it's really heartwarming to have my mom's name associated with such great people and individuals that have come out of that school in that area. So for us, the Fritz kids, it's truly an honor to have our mom's name up there as we go in the hallways or we pass it on 68. It's something that, you know, my kids have looked forward to. They're like, when's Mimi's name going to be on the sign, and things like that. And, you know, it's like, cool your jets. We got to go through a process. But, you know, eventually, hopefully the process vets out, and we all see her name on that sign, and it'll be, you know, a joyous day in the Fritz house, and there's a lot of supporters that will feel, you know, that she's given her just due. And thank you for your time.
Thank you. Ms. Vernon?
Hi, my name's Elizabeth Verna, 26 Mapleview Road, Wallingford, Connecticut. I wasn't planning on speaking this evening, but I'm really compelled to. Mary Fritz was a unique individual. She was a great leader, not only for the town of Wallingford, but for the state of Connecticut. She was a woman who was a mentor to me and a role model for so many women in not only Wallingford, but Connecticut. It would truly be the right thing to do to name Yalesville School after Mary G. Fritz, not only for the efforts that she did for the town of Wallingford, but the entire state of Connecticut. I would ask Chairman Cervoni if this evening, since there are so many supporters of Mary here in the audience, if the council would consider, and if they could even legally do it, a conditional vote based on the outcome of what the Board of Ed decides. Would the council consider giving a conditional vote or a straw vote about how they feel about renaming the school Mary G. Fritz?
I don't think you're going to find much opposition on the council to the concept of renaming. I don't want to necessarily send this to the Board of Education as a mandate.
I'm not asking that to be a mandate. I guess we would just, I guess that's what I wanted to hear, Vinnie. Thank you.
And I know you're not asking for a mandate, but I think if we've taken a conditional vote, we've essentially said, we're ready, just waiting for you. And
So when would it be taken up again? That's what I'd like to know.
After the Board of Ed's going to consider it at their September 12th operational meeting, they'll report back to us. So the next agenda that it can make after that, I don't know if it'll make the September 13th meeting. I might put it on that meeting, you know, if everybody has confidence that we'll hear back from the Board of Ed after the September 12th meeting.
Okay.
So,
thank you.
thank you. Thanks for your patience and understanding.
It's the other loose cannon in the Fritz family. Willie Fritz, 30 Sunnybrook Lane in Clinton, 37-year resident of the town of Wallingford. I appreciate your consideration. I appreciate it, Bill, as well. I know the process very well. I want to explain to you that my mother's efforts are far-reaching beyond the town of Wallingford. We just built a new high school. We're going to cut the ribbon. Excuse me, must be the gum. We're going to cut the ribbon on Sunday. And I have a state rep, I have a state senator, but I had my mother. And we ran into problems with the state of Connecticut. And when I was seeking additional reimbursement beyond what the state was willing to give because they changed the statute midway through our project, and when I was seeking a space waiver, our reps they were stymied at the door. I called Mary Fritz, and my mother helped me bring back $11 million in additional funds to offset the cost to the town of Clinton for that school. And if I had the opportunity, or if I had the choice to put somebody's name on that school's plaque, it would have been Mary Fritz, and it would have been in the town of Clinton. So her reach goes far beyond the town of Wallingford and the town of Cheshire. She did stuff for all residents around the state, and I appreciate your consideration, and I hope, and I'm sure the Board of Ed will strongly consider, and as I always do say, I look for your approval in the future. I hope they approve it, come back to you guys, and you guys approve it. I'm not so sure about the donating money part that my father threw out there. He's got all kinds of inheritance money from her big pension from the state. But if that's what it takes, for the Fritz family to help off to do this, we certainly will make sure that we contribute to it. And I thank you for your time.
Thank you for making the trip from Clinton. Any other speakers? I encourage you, if you didn't feel like speaking tonight, that you come back when this does appear on the next agenda. So thank you for being here tonight. Before, I guess some councilors do want to speak. Councilor Fishbein.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. You know, I grew up on Brownstone Road, a couple streets over from Grove, and right across the street from the Tories, who I see here tonight. And I attended Yalesville School, kindergarten through 4th grade, and spent a lot of weekends at the Fritz Garage, Arts and Crafts. After 4th grade, I went to St. Stan's in Meriden and ran into Mary Fritz again, because she was then working in the parochial schools in Meriden. So, you know, the Fritz family has been part of my family, and Mary has certainly been part of my life, my formative years, so I totally appreciate this and this opportunity. And at Mary's wake, when Mr. Fritz mentioned this whole idea that I never even thought of, I thought and think presently that it's a fantastic idea, and I told him that I would do what I had to do to try and make it happen. As I believe other councilors did that evening as well. It's rare that an agenda item comes from the entire council, but that's the way it appears on our agenda, because this is not a one councilor sort of situation. This is a team. You know, money shouldn't matter. We just named a baseball field after Coach Neubauer, who happened to be a gym coach of mine. You know, it wouldn't be fair for us to go back to the family and say you have to pay for the signage now. You know, the amount of good things that Mary did for education, not only just education, but many things in our town, is without compensation. And it just wouldn't be right for us to say to the family, you know, you need to pay for that stuff. So while I'm putting the cart before the horse, I just, you know, I'd rather see the good money go to buy books for somebody or, you know, than for us to hold this project hostage because, you know, the Board of Education is in financial constraints. So in answer to Liz Verna's question, I'm totally in support of what's before us, and looking at our calendar, I think it would appear on September 13 or September 27th for the public. So that's all I had to say. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Certainly. Councilor Zandri.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I too want to echo Councilor Fishbein's sentiments. I think it's pretty easy to see the fact that by the time I got done writing the email and sending it, my mail synchronized and Craig had already beat me by like an hour for the very same item. We hadn't spoken to one another at all and until after the fact. And I think that just goes to show you that the idea of doing something for someone that's done so much is not only a no-brainer, but it's got the full support of everybody up here. The fact that two people thought of it separately, others probably did and didn't even get an opportunity to sit down that evening. It's backed by all of us, as Craig mentioned. It's on the agenda as a council item. I'm sure the Board of Education is going to look at it in the very same light, and I can't expect it to come back with anything but an affirmative. We want to allow the process to unfold the way it's supposed to. But as again, I can't see there becoming any issue with this going through, and I'm going to look forward to their input and their decisions so that we can take our next step here and just to get this thing done. So I want to thank my fellow counselors up here, the Board of Education in advance, and all the people that have supported this. We're going to get it done, all of us, for all of you, for Mary. Thank you.
Councilor Sullivan.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I bet my 401 that Bill Fritz would go to that microphone, and I knew you would. You said you wouldn't, but you did, and you kept it all together. Good for you. Twice. You're now in the company of Mr. Gross. You should feel good about that. I can't tell you how many nights I spent in the Fritz living room being brainwashed by Billy and then being smacked back into reality by Mary. She was the consummate politician and someone that should be the template and the mold that politicians are made from. She was a Democrat, but she took a practical approach to government. She knew that the budget was a mess, and she was one of the few Democrats that stood up and said, there's no way we can pass this budget. It's a mess. That took courage, and that's the courage that she showed over the many years that she served her district. But Mary did more than serve her district. She served this entire town. I would guess that Lyman Hall would not have a synthetic turf track if Sheehan did not have theirs first, and they got it because of Mary Fritz. Mary brought many benefits to this town. She made many friendships over the years. She inspired many of us. One of the reasons I got into politics was because of Mary Fritz. And again, campaign after campaign, the Fritzes were there for me. We had meeting after meeting. I got to know their family very well. They were like a second family to me. I know the grandchildren. I know the sons, the daughters. I've been to fundraisers for Willie, and he's right. They have a beautiful new high school at Morgan High School right off of Route 81, I believe, right, Willie? And it's because of Mary. Unbelievable, the scope of her representation, not only in her own district, but throughout the state of Connecticut. I don't see any problem with this going through. And I'll tell you, Willie, if you can raise $7,000, rather than putting it towards a sign, which I think the town can take care of very easily, you should probably raise that money for a scholarship for your wife. That's what you need to do. And then maybe once a year, a $1,000 scholarship goes to a high school student, or maybe $500 you know, however you do it. But if you can raise that much money, put it towards the kids. I think Mary would have wanted it that way rather than being put towards a sign. So I don't see any problem with this going forward. My colleagues know the relationship I've had with Mary Fritz and Bill Fritz over the years. It's been a wonderful relationship. Bill has been a mentor. Mary was a mentor as well. If you ever call Bill on the phone, Mary's screaming in the background because she may not be on the phone physically, but she's listening to every word and offering her opinion. Right, Willie? So, right. My colleagues made a good point. We may not be able to decide tonight, but I'm proud to say that I'll be here sitting on this council when it happens. And it may take the end of September. And remember, even after we vote and it's all approved, it's going to take Dr. Menzo some time to get this thing done. You probably want to start it out on the new school year and do it right. So your patience is deeply appreciated. We all valued Mary as a state representative, but I think we valued her more as a friend. Thank you.
Councilor Laffin.
Thank you. I'll be brief. I just wanted to thank everybody for Mary's family for coming out tonight, not just for coming out tonight, but for sharing her over the past few decades and allowing her to serve the way that she has. I know growing up with having young kids right now that is difficult to do, and I'm only dealing with 2 kids, not 6. So we do appreciate that on behalf of the entire town. And coming from another public servant, I guess, I recognize the difficulty or the hardship that creates on you as a family unit. I obviously support this because, like Mary, this isn't about politics, it's about public service and governance. And I just find it extremely appropriate and fitting. And I'd also like to thank the Board of Ed for taking this on. And it's, as was indicated, going to be a process, and there's a lot of bits and pieces and puzzle pieces that need to be put together to make all this happen. You can't just snap our fingers. So thank you to the Board of Ed for looking at this, and then to the family and friends for their patience as we do this. As we know, government is never quick. So just thank you.
All right, if there's nothing else, as I'd indicated, as soon as we hear back from the Board of Education, this item will be back on our agenda for consideration after we hear from the board, and we look forward to seeing you all then. So thank you for being here tonight. On to the next item. Councilor Zandri, you did make me aware that you would seek a waiver under Rule 5.
Yes, Mr. Chairman. This past week, there was a meeting with the PUC and some amendments made. So with that, I would like to make a motion for a discussion and possible action with respect to the actions taken on the agreement from the PUC meeting on August 16th.
Before we entertain your motion, you need to move to waive Rule 5 to consider that item.
I'd like to make a motion to waive Rule 5 then, in consideration of that.
Is there a second of Councilor Zandri's motion?
Second.
Moved and seconded. We'll have a roll call vote on the motion to waive Rule 5.
Fishbein,
Yes.
Laffin,
Yes.
Marone,
Yes.
Sullivan,
Yes.
Testa,
Yes.
Zandri,
Yes.
Chairman Cervoni.
Yes. At this point, it's appropriate to move your item.
I'd like to make a motion so that we can discuss with possible action the PUC action from August 16th with regards to amendment number 1 for the market price power supply agreement.
Second.
That's how I would have seen your item appear on the agenda. My concern is that as a motion, it doesn't direct us to do anything.
All right. Well, I mean, I guess the idea here is to take a look at the information rather than come right out and say, I want to take an action to veto the item. I'd like to discuss it, but that would be, unless I'm satisfied with the explanation, that would be my action. My action is going to be to take a vote to veto the actions taken by the PUC under this agreement.
Would you amend your motion accordingly? You can certainly withdraw it if you're satisfied with the discussion.
Well, then I would like to amend my motion accordingly.
Is there a second to the amendment?
Yes.
So the motion is amended and seconded as amended.
Can we have the motion read back?
Zandri made the motion to discuss the PUC action of August 16th regarding the Amendment 1 of the Market Price Power Supply Agreement.
And I believe that should be a motion to veto. Is that correct?
Correct.
Yeah.
Okay, as long as we understand that that's the motion on the table. We do have some representatives from the electric division, and I think if you're willing to approach, it might benefit the discussion we're about to have.
Just for the record, the Director, George Adair, and the Chairman, Robert Beaumont, are away at a public power conference and could not be here this evening.
Thank you, Mayor. If you could remind us who you are for the record, please.
Good evening, Mr. Chairman. I'm Richard Hendershot, General Manager of the Electric Division. To my right is Patrick Burney, member of the Public Utility Commission, and to my left is Tom Sullivan, Electric Division Office Manager.
Okay. And would you be so kind as to give us a summary of the Amendment 1 to which Councilor Zandri is referring?
I'll do my best. It's an amendment to the market-based power supply contract between the Electric Division and Bristol-Myers Squibb. And the amendment is, Tom, would you like us to read it into the record?
Please.
You got a copy? Okay. It's in entirety. The amendment reads, Amendment number 1 to the market price power supply agreement dated December 31, 2013. The agreement is entered into as of this 16th day of August 2016 by the town of Wallingford, acting by and through its Department of Public Utilities, Electric Division, the WED, and Bristol-Myers Squibb Company, Bristol-Myers Squibb, referred to herein individually as a party and collectively as the parties. Witnesseth, whereas Section 3.3.1 of the agreement requires the WED to adjust its charges to BMS at such times as the WED revises its charges under Rate 5M, and whereas the Wallingford Board of Public Utilities Commission, the PUC, on August 16, 2016, adopted new rates effective for the period of October 1, 2016 through June 30, 2017, which include revisions to Rate 5M charges, and whereas the rates adopted by the PUC on August 16, 2016 were not designed to increase the spread revenue minus power cost that was generated by the rates previously in effect, and whereas Section 3.3.1 of the agreement requires that the customer charge and demand charge be adjusted at the same time that the WED adjusts the published rates of the comparable rate class, the reference class, and whereas imposition of a rate increase as called for by Section 3.3.1 of the agreement would increase the spread in the BMS rates currently in effect, and whereas such an increase in spread would be inconsistent with the intent of the rates adopted by the PUC on August 16, 2016, and now therefore the parties agree to amend the WED BMS agreement as set forth below. 1. Section 3.3.1 is amended by replacing the second sentence with the following. Unless otherwise agreed by the parties, each adjustment of the customer charge and demand charge shall produce an increase or decrease in revenue equal to the increase or decrease in revenue for the BMS load that would occur if the BMS load were billed under the published rates of the reference class. 2. Section 3.2A of the agreement is placed in its entirety with the following. Customer charge for usage from 1/1/14 through 6/30/14, $1,025 per month. For usage 7/1/14 through 12/31/16, $3,108 per month. Section 3.2C is replaced in its entirety with the following. Demand charge for usage 1/1/14 through 6/30/15, $3.71 per kW month based on the maximum demand expressed in kW occurring during the current month and the previous 11 months. For usage 7/1/15 through 12/31/16, $3.71 per kW month based on the maximum demand expressed in kW occurring during the current month and previous 11 months. In witness whereof, the parties have caused the amendment number 1 to be marked to the market price power supply agreement dated December 31, 2013, to be executed in their respective names by the duly authorized offers on this 16th day of August 2016. And then places for the parties to sign the amendment.
It seems to me that if not amended, the agreement as it existed would have provided that Bristol-Myers rates increase.
Revenues that we would collect from Bristol-Myers would increase, yes.
And if I understood you correctly, the impact of the amendment was to not impose the increase that would have occurred because you simultaneously, by a different action, adjusted the town-wide rates. And so your amendment makes the BMS rates consistent with the other rate adjustments that you've done throughout town. Is that?
Yes.
Am I oversimplifying it?
No.
Okay. Mr. Burney, you're kind enough to join us, and I'm sure you were part of the deliberation that night. And if you could let us know what the thought process was that led to imposing this amendment and the effect on what would have happened otherwise.
2 points, Mr. Chairman. Again, Patrick Burney, 238 South Main Street. 2 points. One, we had an executive session, an attorney-client privileged communication where on the CMAQ arbitration, and our counsel during those negotiations, without divulging any privileged communication, made clear to us that every contract in the state of Connecticut has an implied covenant of good faith and fair dealing. And when we emerged from executive session on that issue and we started deliberating about this issue, that implied covenant of good faith and fair dealing was at the forefront of my mind. We had just gone through 4 rate workshops, multiple public hearings, and the end result of our rate 5M modification was a 0.01 increase. Overall, the entire increase to the town of Wallingford ratepayers for the upcoming fiscal year will be 0.34%. The increase to BMS under the market-priced power supply agreement, if we did not vote to modify, would be 12.5% increase. A 12.5% increase when I looked at the power supply agreement, and then this is my interpretation of the customer charge and demand charge provision, I look at that provision as sort of a tag-along. If our rates in 5M are going up, if our demand charges are going up, well, guess what? The power supply agreement's going to go up too. However, if the demand charges go down or stay the same, the implied covenant of good faith and fair dealing, in my view, dictates that the modification a modification was warranted. And that's sort of the subject matter of the discussions that we had and ultimately my conclusion.
Thank you. With that, I'd like to open up the opportunity to other, well, I'm going to allow Councilor Zandri to go first because this was his item.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. So I followed along pretty well. I mean, I'm rusty on utility stuff. It's been about 15, 16 years since I've had any major dealings with utilities directly. My prior life, I worked for Northeast Utilities, Eversource, when it was Northeast Utilities. But I've got some concerns with not only what's occurred here, but some of the statements. You know, we talk about, I don't want to misquote you, say fair dealing, Mr. Bernie. What was the terminology you used?
Implied covenant of good faith and fair dealing, it's an implied contract provision.
Okay, because the issue that I have is that, you know, here we have a rate increase that wasn't intended under the action that was taken, but would have been the end result, and it was about 12%. And the rates that we were taking a look at coming down the pike, the original rate changes that were going to go to the residents in town were originally going to be 12.1%. Now, I know they're not the exact same things because these are future costs and not these current ones. But it seems to me like there was less of an issue of taking a look at putting that on the backs of all the ratepayers. And now we have this special circumstance. So I'm trying to understand this special circumstance better. If this change impacted BMS, didn't it impact other people as well? And if not, then why? Other major users, I don't want to name a handful in town, but did it also affect them as well?
Yeah, well, I will turn over to Mr. Hendershot, but just the three numbers that were screaming at me that night. 0.01% was what the 5M increase was going to be. Across all rate classes, 0.34%. Bristol-Myers, 12.5%. And Mr. Hendershot, if you've got some further elaboration on that.
Yes, those numbers are correct. The reason it's occurred that way is that the rates that were approved and will go into effect October 1, and they're intended to operate for the period of the remainder of this fiscal year, are a restructuring of rates, sort of mechanical changes, but not intended to effectively raise any more revenues. As Mr. Bernie correctly stated, total revenues will go up less than 1%. The effect on rate 5, which includes 5M, customers that are in rate 5 that are classified as manufacturers have slightly different rates so that we don't over-collect the gross earnings tax component of their rates, because they get a tax break as manufacturers. But the intent or the structure of the changes to rate 5, to paint it with a broad brush, is that the demand charges, the charges that are applied to the maximum load the customer imposes on the system during their highest hour of usage during each billing month, are going up. And the energy charges, the costs for the energy during all hours of the year, are going down. And their effect on customers in the retail 5 and 5M is effectively zero. If Bristol-Myers Squibb were a rate 5M customer, they'd see that same sort of result. Now, as a special market priced customer, special market-based customer, what they do is they go into the market themselves and see to their power supply needs themselves. The electric division just acts as a physical conduit between them and the outside world. They act through the same agent we use, but they take on all of their own risk for energy, capacity, transmission, ancillaries, and all the different components of their electric bills. And how well they do or don't do in their purchasing of energy, any risk avoidance mechanisms they may employ, including the use of their own on-site generator, and arbitrage that, if you will, against the price of gas at the time, is totally up to them. It matters not to us one way or another. So, having said that, the intent of those provisions in the contract are such that when we change our retail rates in such a manner as the intent of that change is to produce more operating revenue or spread or margins. I may use the same terms intermittently, and I'll apologize, but they mean more or less the same thing, at least in the context of this conversation. The rates from October going forward are not intended to do any of that. They'll effectively raise no more operating revenue. But if we had left the mechanical changes of rate of the special market price contract in place, they would have raised over $150,000 a year of additional operating revenue from Bristol-Myers. And it was the director's opinion, and in concurrence with the PUC, that not be what take place for the reasons Mr. Bernie, I think, accurately articulated, that It's not what the overall rate changes were intended to do, and so it's not what the director proposed and the commission approved happened to Bristol Myers.
So I guess it's almost like an unintended benefit of, so to speak, everything else being left alone, that we would actually be taking in more revenue based on the fact the rates changed and we didn't do this provision.
Correct. I think calling it an unintended consequence is exactly what to call it.
Well, I mean, so are there other entities in Wallingford or our service areas? I know we go a little bit into Northford. Is there anybody else that falls under this clause?
There's one other large customer with a similar but not identical contract. They take a portion of their load up to a certain level at the retail rate, 5M. And so that portion of their load will be subject to all the changes of 5M that are about to occur. And depending on their exact blend of demand charges, their actual demand metering and the charges that are applied, and the energy that they buy under a certain level, that portion of their bill will change. How much, I'm not sure. Then at that same meeting, the PUC enacted a similar amendment in their contract to not have this same sort of thing happen to their contract, the market price portion of their load service. Theirs was more in the order of about an order of magnitude left, about 1.2%. But to treat both of these parties the same, a similar adjustment was made to their contract. Again, so that we not collect additional margin spread operating revenue from that customer over and above whatever just happens in the retail portion of their load.
The rate change overall, how does it affect the residential customer?
That portion will go up about 0.8%. Yes. About 0.8%.
All right, so.
Well, let me state that differently. Revenues will be 0.8% higher than they otherwise would have been without the change. But because of anticipated changes in the power cost adjustment, because of what we think wholesale power costs will be over the rest of the fiscal year, the net effect on the typical residential customer will be about a 7-cent a month decrease.
Increase or?
Decrease.
Decrease. But that last part, you're basing on speculation and.
No, we're very well hedged. You mean speculating on the energy price?
Forecasting, maybe speculation is the wrong
well,
word.
Yes,
Forecasting.
I mean, in that we think our energy position is in the order of 90% covered for the period we're speaking about. So we're open roughly 10%. We could be open as little as 5%, but recent history has shown that those open hours tend to run below average in energy costs rather than above average in energy costs.
I guess some of the fundamental issue that I have with this overall is it's multifaceted, on top of the fact that a couple of people came to me directly and asked me about the decision. You know, and I don't want to necessarily use Bristol Myers as a component in the discussion, but I'm kind of forced to because of the particular circumstance in which this came to me. So you have a situation with any customer that's in, you know, of this size. They have the ability to come to the electric division and say, look, we're big enough, we want to be able to shop around, we want to take some of our own risk, we want to gamble, we want to do this. Residential areas can't do that, condominium complexes can't do that. They're pretty much dictated to, I mean, outside of Wallingford, sure, because the market is higher and there's another set of circumstances if they want to buy green and spend a little bit more. If they want to roll the dice on it somewhere else, they can do it less, and then they just pay for the distribution costs. But the little guy, who are the people that called and complained about this, they don't have any benefit like this. And, you know, the one conversation I had is Bristol Myers is leaving. Why are we even reducing their, if the end result of this rate change to make everything else flat nailed them, this is the individual speaking to me, why would I care? they're not staying to keep jobs. We're not going to reduce their rate to try to help them stay longer. They're exiting. And it's not like we went and cycled them out on purpose. This is the end result of this change. And on the other side of that argument, if they suddenly, not necessarily Bristol Myers, but some other company that's got either a special deal or the ability to go to open market, if they had a banner year, they went from being $100 million in the hole to having a $500 million year, they wouldn't come to the town and go, hey, you know that special rate we negotiated with you? We made fistfuls of cash this year. We'd like to square up. So I guess maybe I'm looking at it too simplistically. If this rate change, this amendment to this agreement is the right thing to do to 100% of the ratepayers in town, and it negatively impacted 2 of them, only 1 of them in an exaggerated format, why did we go through this trouble to fix it? Because I tend to believe that if it was the other way, it wouldn't be so quick to fix.
Mr. Zandri, I'll attempt to answer that question. And I certainly that evening was grappling with the same issue you just raised, and if you look at the minutes, I asked the same question.
I just got them literally today, so I apologize for not having enough time to read them all.
I asked the same question, and when I read through the memo and I had the discourse with Mr. Adair, again, the implied covenant of fair faith and good dealing, in the exercise of my sound business judgment as a member of the Public Utilities Commission, I thought it was the right decision. I moved the motion, and it passed unanimously. That's the only answer that we can provide you. It was the exercise of our sound business judgment, and the charter vests with you and the town council the opportunity to veto it, and I think that's the answer.
Mr. Chairman, I may have more later, but I think I'd like to give the opportunity if anybody else has any questions. So I'd like to step aside, at least for now.
Certainly. Thank you. Councilor Fishbein.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Good evening, gentlemen. So I guess, I sort of look at this, the forest approach as opposed to the trees, because a lot of this is over my head, quite frankly. And fundamentally, we get the backup for these meetings, and we didn't get this backup in our packet originally. It ended at item number 12 as far as the backup. So this has been an issue. I'm bringing it to your attention. And then we got a supplement, which I think was item 16. We got that like the day before the meeting. So this was item 15. Because I would have liked to have reviewed this backup prior to tonight. And we got handed the backup and the memorandum tonight. And, it's a lot to digest. Now, a portion of this is, from what I see, retroactive back to 2014. Is that accurate?
No, that's just the rewording of the, it's putting words in the amendment that cover the entire duration of the contract. But there's no retroactive, give back or charges.
Okay, because it says the agreement is replaced in its entirety with the following. So, and then it talks about January 1, 2014 through June.
The original contract covered that period of time, so I believe Mr. Adair crafted the language just so it would dovetail and fit, would sort of parachute into the contract and cover the same portion of time, but it's really only addressing effectively the last 3 months of the contract, October through December of 2016.
Extends the existing rate factors through December.
Okay. So just dealing with this implied covenant of good faith and fair dealing, and aware of it, utilized it myself. When Bristol Myers came to the town and said, we want to be part of your town, we want to employ people, we want to be productive, we gave them certain breaks. And now we sit here, and in my opinion, they have preemptively broken the implied covenant of good faith and fair dealing by telling their employees, some of whom I know, you're not employed by us anymore. You know, we gave them breaks so that they would be part of our community for the long haul. That's why we do that. So I respect, you know, the consideration of the good faith and fair dealing, but as far as I'm concerned, we got slapped in the face first. So I don't know that they deserve that consideration. That's generally where my head is at on this thing. I'm not happy about the situation, and I'm glad that we're discussing this. I don't think the votes are there for anything to happen, but I thank Councilman Zandri for asking the questions that he did, because a lot of them I was going to ask as well. So thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Mayor?
Mr. Chairman, let me chime in at this point. I think we should not be mixing the tax incentives that the town engaged in with Bristol Myers pursuant to state law with the providing of electric energy to the same business. They're completely different issues. The good faith dealing that I think Attorney Bernie speaks to deals with the intent of a contract entered into with Bristol Myers, and I believe part of the reason for that contract is they generate their own energy, isn't that right? So we are in a different relationship with them than many other businesses in town. Is that correct?
They do have an on-site generator that they use frequently and
So we're more of a
purchase
backup.
far less than 100% of their electric energy.
We're kind of a standby backup.
We're a partial requirements provider is what it amounts to.
So the reason for some of this relationship is because they have a very different relationship from most businesses with our electric division. The good faith dealing is a significant issue. I would not want a message to go out to other companies that might be thinking about coming to Wallingford and have them become aware that we in our rate making do not subscribe to good faith dealing. And again, we have to separate whatever enhancements there were for Bristol Myers to come here, and we know it was tax abatements 7 years on at least 2 or 3 of their phases of construction. That is a completely separate issue. And if they had reneged somehow on the tax abatement issue and built only half of what they were supposed to invest and insisted upon getting all of the enhancement as if they had built all that they had promised, that would be a different thing. Then you could say, well, you know, they didn't do what they were supposed to, so they broke whatever covenants there were first. That is not the case here. They purchase energy, we supply the energy, and they have a contract with us that puts them in a relationship that where other rates go up, they will pay a proportionate or concomitant portion of that as it goes up. This is not what we're dealing with here. We would be collecting something that is outside of what we deserve to collect. And I think that good faith is something we should maintain for the benefit of not only Bristol Myers, but any ratepayer in this town and any prospective ratepayer who might think that it would be a good idea to move to Wallingford. It is a good idea to move to Wallingford because we live up to what we promise.
Councilor Lavin.
Thank you. Yeah, I think a veto tonight would communicate a message that we don't want to communicate to other businesses in the town. And aside from that, it communicates the undermining of the PUC as to hold an ability to negotiate with these businesses, and that there is not a level of trust. I don't think Bristol-Myers is leaving to stick it to the town. They're not leaving to do that. They have other and their own reasons for that. They're not trying to stick it to the town. They're not trying to stick it to their employees who are our neighbors. They have to move on, and they have made the decision to do so based on a larger, bigger picture, looking at the whole forest decision. I don't think it would be fair to stick it back to them because we're upset that they've had to leave. I think they've been here for the long haul anyway. It's not like they've only been here for 5 years or something like that. They've been a strong partner in the town and the community for a while. That's on the emotional side. But I think on the business and practical side, this, as was stated, this is fair. This is what the contract we originally discussed with them was to be, and it's in good faith effort and fair dealings that it be reopened and discussed, because when the contract was originally drafted and agreed to, this type of scenario was envisioned, and we are acting accordingly. And I don't feel it would be appropriate to back off that. Thank you.
Any other comments from the council? Councilor Zandri.
So with some of the commentary, and I'm hopeful that the chairman will allow the consideration of anybody from the public that may have some questions as well. Some of the comments that were made were, I don't think Bristol-Myers is sticking it to the town. Well, I don't think we're sticking it to Bristol-Myers. I think we have a condition where we made this change, and the unintended result of this change is that they got pressed the hardest on the rate change. It would be no different than, I don't want to mix revaluation because that's not fair, but when you have people that draw single phase and commercial and industrial, they pull three phase, there's different rates, depending on the time of day, what they're going to end up drawing and what they're going to end up paying. Everybody ends up dealing with a conditional set of changes. When the argument is used that, Bristol-Myers is not sticking it to the town, they're leaving because they have a larger, bigger picture, that they're looking at the vitality of their own business, and I'm fine with that discussion, but I think also Wallingford, the electric division, the PUC also have to look at our larger, bigger picture, which is we've got a base of ratepayers that don't have the ability just to pick up and move or negotiate better rates. If this change was not done nor made to nail a couple of very large customers, get them to pay more so we could pad some of our accounts. It was set to make changes to the rates that everybody was going to pay. The situation ended up being such that one customer ended up paying a higher proportion. And if this was the other way around, I still maintain, if it was the other way around and fringe customer, realistically, that's what happened with the customer service charge. Customer service charge for residential, unless I'm mistaken, is $18 a month?
That's correct.
Okay. I wanted to make sure I was clear on that. So if I have a house and I decide I'm going to winterize it, take off, and I'm going to leave a night light on, I'm going to get charged $18 a month for still having that service tied in, and I'm going to still be charged for that minimal amount of light being drawn, just for being connected to the service without really drawing anything. So, there's certain things that you just cannot escape from when you're a customer, whether you're a small customer or a large customer. And I think this situation kind of outlines that, where you have this customer that's, I'm not going to suggest they dictated to us, but they basically said, we're going to come in, we're going to put a lot of our own code generation in, we're going to lean on the town when we need it, we're going to use you like a backup. This ends up coming at this tail end. I don't feel that I think it would be wrong to saddle them with 12% if it was intentional or intended, but it was the end result of other work that happened, and I don't see any reason why we necessarily have to say, well, we should do this, because I personally feel you can make the same argument that the right thing to do would be to make sure that the rates are more stable for all of the customers. So, maybe at this point, I don't think I have any more questions on it. That's more of a response to some of the other things that were said. I'm pretty confident that I got a good feeling on how the vote will go, but I still think it needs to be said, and that's why I wanted it discussed. And I would also like to add and to tag on to Councilor Fishbein's sentiment that the timelines for us to even consider doing something like this are so very tight. I would have rather looked this over some more, had some more time to do it without having to request a special meeting, drag everybody else out here, maybe only have 6 of us, which is barely a quorum, and we absolutely can't take a vote on it. That would come up with charter revision, which, you know, they didn't address it. They had an opportunity to address it, and they didn't. And, you know, and I don't want to belittle the unanimous vote that took place on this. It was 2 votes, because there's only 2 people on the PUC at the time. I don't want people to think like there were 5 or 7 people voting on this. 2 is still unanimous, but I want people to understand what unanimous meant. It meant both people agreed. This is why, with charter revision, one of the requests that went forward was to consider 5 members over the 3 we have. And it doesn't look like that's going to get addressed. So that's just another piece of this. And I didn't mean to tangent off too much, and I apologize. So, Mr. Chairman, I guess I'm all set now. I would like to ask your consideration if anybody in the public had any questions.
We'll go to the Mayor.
I just want to clarify, it's not just one company. Is that correct, Mr. Hendershot? Wasn't there a second amendment as well?
Yes, there was another company, there was a question was asked earlier that a similar change was made to a similar provision in a similar contract.
So it's not just one.
Right, and just my own clarification to that, this one was 12%. I think that one was less than 2%, the change?
Correct.
Okay, that was my issue between the 2.
Councilor Marone.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I'll be really brief. I don't have a crystal ball, but I would, if I were a betting man, I would bet that we wouldn't be having this discussion if Bristol Myers was staying in town. So, you know, they do pay somewhere in the neighborhood of a $3,000 a month customer service charge according to the contract and the amendment we just read. So it's certainly not peanuts. I mean, you talk about the $18 a month that a residential customer pays, it's a lot of money. So to me, the business message, or the message to try to saddle a business that's leaving with a different charge than we would give to someone that we're staying would be exactly the sort of bad faith scenario that would lead other businesses not to want to locate in town. And so, you know, I think just for the purposes, we're talking 3 months here. I don't think that for 3 months, you know, I think we can eat the minuscule difference that we're talking about here in rates to be a town that looks friendly to business and friendly to our electric ratepayers. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Certainly. With that, we'll go to the public. Gentleman in the back who stood up, if you want to come forward and identify yourself for the record, please. Name and address.
Bruce Conroy, 13 Burke Heights. They signed a contract, and unintended, they didn't realize it would raise it 12%. Too bad. When I sign a contract, I sign a contract. I don't get to renegotiate. And 2 people voting unanimously? Please. As for our bad faith, there's no bad faith. They signed a contract. Where's the bad faith? Why would we eat it? You want the people in the town to eat it? No, we don't eat it. They signed a contract, let them pay. That's it. Thanks.
Thank you. Mr. Zandri, I saw your hand.
Gino Zandri, 9 Balsam Ridge Circle. I heard several other councilors state that, you know, Bristol Myers is paying high fees for each month for their electricity. And we don't want to do this because, you know, you could potentially lose someone from moving into the town of Wallingford because of it. Well, if any company was interested in moving to Connecticut, and they were going to be driven by electric rates, they would come to the town of Wallingford because we have the best rates in the state of Connecticut. So the argument that you're trying to make is you don't want to chase anybody away. All they have to do is compare the rates with what the people in Wallingford pay, the businesses pay in this town, and they'll be rushing to get here. Thank you.
Anyone else from the public? Mr. Gross.
Bob Gross, Long Hill Road. Real quick, there was a mention of what their kilowatt hour charge is. Do you remember what you read, Mr. Hendershot?
I don't believe I did.
3.7 or something?
No, the $3.71 you recall is their demand charge.
Okay. What is their kilowatt, do we know, or megawatt?
We don't
You don't charge them at all because they're not buying from us for the most part.
Correct.
They don't buy any electricity for the most part from us.
They don't, they're a market-based customer.
So all you're charging that, all this would have been was a raise in the market and the fees to bring the electricity to them?
Mr. Sullivan was clarifying something. I didn't hear your question. Could you repeat it, please?
My question is, so this isn't really a raise in our electrical rates. This is a raise in the way in which they receive electricity from whoever they get the electricity from. It's the infrastructure.
If the fees weren't changed, what we presently do is, in essence, that. We bring power to them, and we have a structure for charging them for doing so.
We bring it to them, but they're purchasing it from...
They are handling their own...
Right, so we'll say they're buying it from entity A.
Yes.
We're town of Wallingford, Wallingford Electric, they're buying it from entity A. So what we're essentially charging them for is bringing it to them.
Yes.
And there's I thought maybe we were raising electrical rates on it, but we're not. So we need to maintain the infrastructure for them, and I have no problem. It could be let's not take Bristol Myers out of the equation here. I don't care. I mean, I do find it, and no disrespect to some of the council, I find it vindictive if somebody's leaving, you want to charge somebody because, hey, you want to stick it to them. That's not right in my book. But this is, you're bringing in power to them. They're getting it from, they're not paying us. We're not making any money on the electricity that's coming in. We're just charging them a service fee to bring it here, which we need to maintain. I assume it's quite a, they're quite a array of effort to bring in, because they're taking in a large quantity of electricity.
I think we need to clarify something. Mr. Hendershot, is Bristol Myers purchasing any power from an entity outside of Wallingford?
They acquire all of their electric energy from the market. I don't know who their contracts are.
So it's not from their cogeneration?
Oh, they supply some of their needs from their on-site generator, yes.
They don't have enough to produce. They don't make enough, Mr. Mayor, to make their own electricity. They still
certain hours of the day they do, but
but they still have to bring in power. They still need a way to bring, they still have to have a source to bring in their power. They're not getting it from us. They're getting it from whoever they're getting it from entity B. They're getting power from somewhere, but not from us. The only thing we're charging them is the means on getting it there. Yes, no?
Yes.
So I have to then I do agree with Councilor Zandri and Councilor Fishbein that maybe we are providing the ways to get it there. This is a contract, I don't know who the gentleman was who spoke before. This was a contract, I don't know. I'd have to see more about it, and I agree with Councilor Zandri that, it's unfortunate. This came up in Charter Revision in 2009, and now again in 2016. There should be a better wave back and forth that you guys who oversee the electric division have the ability to see this, discuss it, decipher it, as Attorney Fishbein said, this is a lot over his head, but if he had time, I'm sure he could figure it out. If he had more time to sit there and gave him a few hours to figure it out, he could have with more. I'm at a loss here. I think that maybe Councilor Zandri is correct. Thank you.
Any other comments from the public? Sir, Mr. Hine.
James Hine, 342 South Elm Street. There was a lot of discussion tonight about sticking it to Bristol Myers and on their way out, but if I understand correctly, the rate increase, that applies to everybody in town, correct? I mean, this isn't a situation where we're just applying an increase to Bristol-Myers itself. Is that correct?
For the remainder of fiscal 17, there is effectively no increase in rates. Some mechanical things are changing in rates. We're getting rid of the seasonality of rates. Energy will cost the same in the summer and the winter. We're removing blocks for residential customers. Those that use more than 700 kilowatt hours won't pay more for that 701st kilowatt hour. The demand charges for customers that are billed under demands are going up, but energy costs are coming down with the intent that revenues are essentially flat. So there's not a rate increase going on. It's more of a rate adjustment.
Okay. But the rate adjustment is going to apply to everybody.
It does, yes.
Including Bristol-Myers. It just happens that the rate adjustment affects Bristol-Myers differently than it affects everybody else. Is that correct?
That's correct.
Okay. And so this isn't a matter of sticking it to Bristol-Myers. This adjustment is applying to everybody, right?
Not to the same magnitude.
I understand not to the same magnitude. And the reason why it's affecting Bristol-Myers differently is because of this contract that they have in place. Is that?
Yes.
That's correct. And is there anything in the contract that would have prevented this rate increase or this rate adjustment to be made to Bristol-Myers itself?
Not without the amendment that was proposed and approved last week.
And when the contract was signed, I take it Bristol-Myers was represented by counsel?
I'll guess that the answer to that question is yes.
Okay. And this is something that Bristol-Myers agreed to, correct?
Yes.
Okay. And so I have a very hard time understanding where the bad faith is if this is something that they were represented by counsel on, they agreed to, and it was allowed by the contract. It was not prevented by the contract. It's something they agreed to. I really have a hard time seeing why we're bending over backwards when it's something that they could have put in the contract. They chose not to, and they were represented by counsel. Thank you.
Mr. Chairman, I believe the contract indicated that there would be increases for Bristol-Myers where there were increases for other rate classes. In this case, there are not increases in other rate classes, and yet we would be substantially increasing the fees, the rate for Bristol-Myers. That's where it is not within the intent of that contract, and that's where we get into the good faith bargaining issues that Commissioner Burney mentioned.
Commissioner Burney, you indicated you wanted to speak.
Just 2 points. One, kudos to Mr. Hine. We asked the same questions that he asked. I used, when Mr. Zandri asked the question, there's this concept, it's my concept, called a tag-along provision. That's what 3.331 is. There's a course of conduct between the town of Wallingford and Bristol-Myers. Historically, if the rates go up, these provisions have been renegotiated. So there's a tag-along. So if it goes up with the town and the rates, rate 5, goes up with the Bristol-Myers power supply agreement. If it goes down, 3.331 dictates that there could be a renegotiation.
Our electric division operates differently than many utilities in that, my perception, been hearing about it for a long time, we operate as a cooperative, don't we? In a sense? Is that a stretch for me to characterize it that way?
Yes, I worked for a cooperative for nearly 20 years, and we look more like a cooperative than we do an investor-owned utility, but we don't look like a cooperative.
Okay.
We don't have the sort of profit motive that investor-owned utility has, but we are by state statute required to run in the black to the tune of between 5 and 8% return on investment, and our rates do that.
Okay.
And we use that return to, in essence, fund the payment to the town that's spelled out in the town ordinance.
The pilot.
Yes. So we have more in common than cooperatives than we do with investor-owned utilities.
Okay.
That's a fair way to state it.
Well, and I certainly didn't mean that in the literal sense of a cooperative, but we operate in a manner that provides low electric rates for all of our subscribers. And we charge what we have to charge to transmit electricity to them and to keep the business running and to run in the black in compliance with the state statute to which you just referred. And I'm sure that had a bit to do with the thinking to which you were referring, Commissioner Burney. I do want to bring it back to the council, but I did see a hand. Is there anybody who wants to speak other than Mr. Gross? If not, Mr. Gross.
Bob Gross, Long Hill Road. 2 quick questions then. If Bristol Myers or anybody in this class was getting their electricity from Wallingford Electric exclusively instead of an outside source, would their rate structure be different? Would this surcharge have kicked in on them if they were getting all their electricity from us?
They would be subject to the new rate 5 structure, but its impact would be different.
Lower or higher?
The best answer, I don't know, for 2 reasons. One, there's essentially no energy charges associated with the Bristol-Myers contract, except, as Mr. Sullivan reminded me, the $3.41 a megawatt hour that we collect for the ordinance I just mentioned, and I don't want to change units here, and I apologize, the $0.25 a kilowatt hour we collect for the Energy Conservation Fund. Both of those are imposed on all energy that flows to Bristol-Myers. If they were a full retail customer subject to all of the provisions of rate 5M, they would be subject to these new demand charges, but they would also then be seeing energy charges that might be lower than they're getting out on the market and might be lower than the operating costs of their on-site generation, and so they might choose to behave differently if that's the cost arena their electric play was in. So all I can say to accurately answer your question is that the provisions of rate 5M would apply in full, but to all of their load and all aspects of their load.
Would their monthly load charge change from the $3,000 if they were getting their electricity from us?
Oh, it would be much lower. The customer charge for 5M, I think, is $275 a month.
Case in point. So what?
I'm sorry, no. For 5M, it's $251.63.
So a reduction of 2,000 something. So what they're essentially doing is playing the market to their advantage.
I don't know what they're doing.
Well,
I'm sure that's what they wanted to do when they chose to enter this contract.
And essentially, this contract bit them in the rear, unfortunately, at this particular point in time. I mean, as Mr. Attorney Hines said, they were represented. They have to be savvy investors. They're savvy enough to go into the marketplace and buy their own electricity, which you know is no small feat on its own. They have a cogeneration plant there. They're producing their own electricity. They know what they're doing. And did they even come and ask for this reduction?
Not to my knowledge. Well, do you mean to this amendment?
Yes.
No, not to my knowledge.
So we're just doing it on our own when there's a contract in place.
Is that a question?
Yes, so you're doing it on your own just because even though there's a contract in place. Yes, no?
When the director saw how the provisions of this contract would play against the rate changes that are going into effect, he proposed to the commission that this amendment be enacted.
To Mr. Zandri then, so if this was to the little guy negatively affecting, would Mr. Adair have been so diligent in protecting the little guy against the big guy? I know he's
I
not
don't
here. You
understand
can't
the question, so I
Well,
can't answer.
because what you're doing here essentially is you have a big player here, one of the bigger players in town, electric-wise. They're able to produce their own electricity. They're able to buy electricity in the open market because they are a big enough customer. I can't go in the market. Well, you can. I guess you can now, but they're able to do it on their own. If the little guy, meaning whatever, what's a residential customer class? Whatever, say it's called E1, whatever it is.
Rate 1.
Rate 1. Okay, so if we're rate 1s, if they notice that there was a change in the power adjustment cost, whatever it is, and it's affecting all of us, and it's hypothetical because I know you can't speak for him, but would our chairman be so diligent to protect the little guy where there would be probably an outcry? Here, there was no outcry from this big customer. And here's the other point. I don't even know what kind of dollars you're talking about because there's never been a dollar amount. Is this $1,000, $10,000, $50,000? There hasn't even been a dollar amount discussed here. I'm not asking, is it a large sum? I don't even know what the sum is. Do we know?
Yes, I do. It's, we calculate it to be, where's the month? Because I don't want to, that's a yearly figure, and it's only going to be, we're only talking about 3 months. Well, it's 12.5%, that was mentioned earlier.
Yeah, but don't know what the base number is to start with.
Divided.
It's just under $13,000 a month.
See, this is all over 39,000, and how much do they use a month, electricity?
I don't know. We don't.
Well, I thought you did know because you charge them based on a quarter kilowatt and a megawatt because you need to get that for the rates for the taxes and for the conservation fund. So you have to have an idea of what they use.
It varies wildly, but to give you a ballpark average energy use per month, what's that, Tom? What's that divided by 12? Yeah, 700,000 kilowatt hours.
That's more than the average homeowner then, right?
Yes.
Yeah, that was a joke. So I understand that was. So in essentially then, what would that 700, if a residential customer at the residential rate, what would that bill be for 700,000 kilowatts per month? Somebody's got a calculator up there, no?
If you use the residential rate, it would be almost $72,000 a month, but they wouldn't be charged residential.
I understand they'd have a different, I understand, I don't know what their rates, they're paying they would pay, if they were buying electricity from Wallingford Electric, and you can correct me, they would not pay the R1 rate, they would be paying a much lower rate, correct?
Are you asking me that what would they be paying if
percentage-wise?
If they were a retail customer?
If they were this E5 customer, what would their rate be comparatively to what a residential customer would be?
Well,
percentage-wise.
I don't know, because if I would need to know if they'd have to behave the same way that they're behaving now, and they probably wouldn't because their cost signals would all be different. And it's a combination of what would their demand be, and that's a dollar charge, and it'd be spread across all of the energy that they purchase. And then it would be the energy charge of rate 5M at whatever magnitude they purchase it at. So to sit here and off the top of my head try to tell you what their effective rate would be, I can't, so I won't.
Effectively 20% less or more?
It'd be speculation, so I'm not going to speculate.
What I'm saying is, again, they were playing the odds. They were taking a chance. From the sounds of it, it's not a great sum of money. We've been discussing a lot here for only 39. I had no idea what the amount was. And does this sunset then in January, is what you're saying?
Yes.
And then it goes back to what they were paying before?
No, there'll need to be a new contract in place come January. They will refer to being a rate 5M customer.
So you were negotiating a new contract with them now then?
I don't believe that's started, but it will.
It will start anytime in the near future, then you'll be renegotiating a new rate. And they would, of course, then take this into consideration if you kept this rate and work something out.
Okay.
I mean, you would assume that their attorneys would do that. Whatever. Thank you.
Mr. Chairman. Mayor. I just want to respond to, there's a question raised about whether the director would be as concerned about fairness for a residential user as with a large user. I can emphatically tell you that there is an effort to be fair across all rate classes. It is very difficult, as you can hear, from comparing one rate class with another, but everyone within a rate class is treated with the utmost fairness and desire to visit charges that are fair between any member of that class. So any comment to the effect that, or raising questions about the legitimacy or the efforts of our director and the commission in terms of their analysis of rates and adoption of rates, I have never seen any evidence of someone trying to play favorites or being discriminatory toward any rate user.
Thank you. Councilor Morone.
Thank you very much, Mr. Chairman. Mr. Hendershot, would it be fair for me to say that if, without this amendment, we would be treating Bristol-Myers in a manner inconsistent with the other large corporate customers?
Yeah, I believe so.
I mean, with giving them as much substantial increase where others weren't getting it?
That's true, yes.
Because all I'm looking for here is no special treatment for anyone. And so to me, it would appear that this amendment would give no special treatment to anyone. It treats Bristol-Myers essentially the same as everyone else. So I think what I'm hearing from the public is, in this case, we want special treatment for one particular customer. I don't think that that is fair. And so I think that you took the right action here. Thanks, Mr. Chairman.
Councilor Sullivan.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. You know, early on in this conversation, my colleague, Councilor Fishbein, brought up a good point, and it was about getting information and getting it timely. Anytime any of you are before us, we're always talking about complicated issues that many of us have very little experience in. And we look to you to filter this at a high level and bring it down to a level that we can understand. I would like more time to review this, because I don't think tonight I'm prepared to make a decision. Now let me ask you how that complicates your job. Do we need to resolve this by a specific time? Is the clock ticking? Or can we table this for 2 weeks and come back to it?
My understanding, Mr. Sullivan, is that the charter is firm on this matter, and the council's only opportunity is to act within 15 days of the PUC action. If I'm wrong, someone can correct me.
Oh, it is possible to have another meeting because we're well within the 15 days. The action was taken August 16th. So
Which would move us to a special meeting, is that what you're saying, Mayor?
Yeah, Monday or Tuesday of next week, you could visit the matter again.
Yeah, honestly, to make an informed decision, and we've had great conversation tonight. I think I would personally need more time before I can make an informed decision on this. So, you know, I look to my colleagues to, provide a courtesy, and I think there's probably several of us up here who don't have a handle on this. I can tell you I don't. And I would certainly like you all to consider if it means a special meeting next week, because this is an important issue.
If you're looking for more time, then your move or your way to ask us for it is to move to table the item to a special meeting.
I'm getting there.
Be timely scheduled.
Right. So that's where I'm going. I would ask that maybe you withdraw your motion tonight, we table it and go to a special meeting next week, just to get more information.
Exactly.
Oh, table the, okay. So my proposal would be to table this item and call a special session next week.
Is there a second?
I'll second the motion.
Moved and seconded. We'll have a roll call vote on the motion to table.
Well, this will, excuse me, Mr. Chairman, if we table this right now on this vote, there are still other active questions up here we won't be able to continue to discuss. Is that correct?
It'll end discussion tonight until we convene the meeting where we achieve the tabled. So, are there procedural questions on the motion to table?
Yes.
Okay.
And I don't have my charter with me. Is it 15 days or 14 days?
I don't have my charter either, but I believe it's 15, so within whatever the time limit is.
Because if the meeting's on Tuesday, that is the 15th
Well, you're
day.
not going to pick the day if you table it. You're going to table for a
Understood,
date
but-
within the time limit.
Understood, but the discussion is tabling it to a timely meeting, and all we've generally talked about is Monday or Tuesday of next week, and just indicating that Tuesday would be the 15th day. I mean, just throwing that out there with regard to the...
If the motion to table is successful, we will certainly see that the meeting is scheduled within the legal period of time.
Okay, that's all. Thank you.
Roll call on the motion to table.
Fishbein.
Yes.
Laffin.
No.
Marone.
No.
Sullivan.
Yes.
Testa. Zandri.
No.
Chairman Cervoni.
No, the motion to table fails. Is there any further discussion on the motion tonight? Councilor Zandri?
So I just want to try to clarify a little bit further. And, you know, the term special treatment has come up a couple of times, and we're trying to have a level playing field with all customers. But I don't see this customer as not a special customer. Is there anybody else in town that has an agreement like this, where they basically utilize our equipment, our distribution, our operations, and our service, and don't pay us for any electricity at all? Because they don't buy any electricity from us. This has been said.
They don't purchase, we don't apply an energy charge to them. We apply a demand and a customer charge sufficient to raise the appropriate amount of a margin or spread or operating revenue from them to see to the delivery of their electricity. There's another customer that has a similar but not identical contract. They buy a portion of their energy this way, and they buy a portion of their energy at the regular retail rate, and similarly 5M.
So they're special too, but they're different. They get some from us, some from, they take some risk, and then they have some base. And
They, unlike Bristol Myers has a generator where they can manage their load to a certain extent that way. This other customer has an operating process where they can curtail their load and choose to do so in such a way as to avoid transmission and capacity costs for the portion of their load that is market-based, not retail.
So they're sophisticated.
And this customer was discussed earlier, and we mentioned that that they're getting they would have faced about a 1.25% increase had not a similar action taken place last Tuesday to amend their contract as well.
So this particular customer, the original one, Bristol Myers, is special by definition because there's nobody else in town that does it exactly like them. We have one other customer that sort of does the same thing, but they are completely unique. They are sophisticated enough in their own use to be able to know their own demand loads, make sure that they're not drawing to an extent where they would actually tap generation that ours, for lack of a better way to say it, which would incur them to pay a bill. So they're sophisticated enough to do all that, generate more of their own power, shut down soot blowers, dust blowers, whatever's going on in their environment, to keep themselves from having to actually purchase power from it. And
Wait, the contract is structured such that they do not, because they cannot purchase energy from them. We don't supply it, but they take energy from off-site. Their generator does not meet all of their needs.
But it's not, right, but they're not coming to Wallingford Electric for stuff that we purchase out of our pool that we service the town with. They've gone and gotten it from supplier B, and it's transmitted to them, and they're paying us to transmit.
Correct.
But they're getting their generation from elsewhere.
Correct.
And that was kind of where I was going. Maybe I wasn't making it clear. So all this sophistication that they've got to do all of this, and they set up a contract which was real favorable at the time and now hit a speed bump, and we've proactively gone to them and said, hey, we're going to go out of our way to make sure that we're going to open the contract up to reset the rates because the speed bump affected you for 3 more months. I think that's an issue. This is why I brought it up, because I think it's an issue, and I think it affects our ability to start a new contract, contract negotiation, whether it starts now or whenever the contract ends, because we're already at a disadvantage. We're going to reset these rates right now with this amendment, and then when we open the new discussion, we're going to start at the reduced number. And I don't see why we would do that. For someone who's getting every benefit of Wallingford Electric's great system infrastructure and operations, and they're not getting electricity from our generation pool that we sell back. They get the best of us, and they don't take the other side of us, the less perfect side of us, which might be a little less on the rate side, whatever it is that they're saving, because they're saving something, or they wouldn't go through all this trouble to have this agreement in place. This is why I brought it up, and I can appreciate Councilor Sullivan's need and desire to continue that, but I don't know what the makeup's going to be next Monday or Tuesday. I might not be able to make it. Councilor Letourneau may not be back. He may not be well to be back. There's enough of us here to make a decision. I firmly believe that if we actually could veto it, and I still don't believe the votes are here anyway, but if we actually vetoed it, it would only go back to you folks to come up with something different. It wouldn't end it. But if we let this go tonight, it's set in stone. And that's why I rushed it under the original meeting. That was set in plan so that we didn't have to have a special meeting. And I also know that by having it on the regular meeting date, it tends to bring in more people that may have questions because a special meeting is very sparsely attended. And I want people to hear both sides of the discussion and come up with their own. So I want to extend the thanks to you for coming tonight. I don't know if you were coming already, but my putting the item and the request out was going to compel you to come, so I appreciate that. I think we should look at it tonight. I think my fellow councils should look at this, that we could be setting precedent here for other customers as well that have agreements that don't flourish at the end, and then, maybe they'll bring them back to the table and renegotiate with or without an opener. If it was that big of a deal, they could have brought it back themselves and said, listen, this change is going to impact us. We need to sit down and reopen it. We proactively went to them and said, hey, this is what we're going to do to round that down so it's not 12%, and it's going to be closer to the 1 or 2% or the 0.5% that everybody else is getting. And we're going to enter with a handicap into the new negotiations that we're going to start with you. I disagree with that. And I disagree with that on behalf of all the other ratepayers that can't do a thing about it. So again, thank you very much.
Thank you. If there's nothing else, then we'll call, Councilor Fishbein.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. And I wasn't going to say anything, but Councilor Zandy brings up a point. This is sort of like a 3-month contract with a reopener. So, the whole concept, why not just deal with the reopener now? I think you just convinced me how to vote on this, but thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Mr. Chairman,
Mayor.
we asked the question why we're doing this, and I'm going to repeat it once more, because it is outside the intent of a contract we entered. We're living up to good faith bargaining. We're not looking to take advantage of anyone. The rate for Bristol-Myers is supposed to go up when rates are going up for others. Rates are not going up. And yet we will say, oh, they should pay more because that happens to be an unforeseen consequence. Would you want to do business with anyone like that? I would not. I know what the intent of the contract was, and I think it's up to us to live up to that intent. And their rate shouldn't go up any more than anyone else's should when the terms of the contract say it doesn't go up unless everyone's goes up.
I'll be quick.
How quick?
Very. Because this just keeps on bringing up more questions. So then what's going to change in 3 months from now that's possibly going to impact this?
3 months from now, this contract with Bristol-Myers comes to an end. There's a new negotiation. But the terms of the existing contract, so in other words, we would, before the term is up, we would look to negotiate with them to get us more money. Why would they want that negotiation to benefit us? We're at a disadvantage starting a negotiation now if we're trying to get out of the last 3 months. I'm confounded by our willingness to ignore what our intent was with a ratepayer, responsible ratepayer, and treat them like, hey, we don't care because you happen to be leaving. I don't think we'd be doing any of this with an existing ratepayer who plans to be here for the foreseeable future. And that's what troubles me along with the rest of it. We'll put them in a different class, mainly because they're deciding that for their other business needs, they're leaving Wallingford.
Mr. Chairman, with all due respect to the mayor, and despite the fact that I made the comments earlier about the fact that they are leaving, if there are other customers in the future that are going to have agreements in place, signed contracts, and better deals than other customers, and I'm still sitting in this chair, I'll bring that question up. I will question it every time. Because to me, when you want to talk about equitable changes in rates, we've been discussing them, they've been in the paper. We've got the residences potentially going up somewhere between 10 and 12%, and I've got commercial industrial somewhere between 6 and 7. So right there's a skew.
Understood, but I think this horse is almost cooked.
Just to clarify that, no rates are going up. The only rate adopted was for 1 year. The others are being reevaluated by a consultant. We are mixing apples and oranges over and over again. There is no rate increase. That's the core issue here. There's no rate increase, so why would one or two rates be going up?
Because it's in their contract.
All right, we're done. And would you please call the roll? The yes vote is to veto the PUC decision.
Fishbein.
Yes.
Laffin.
No.
Marone.
No.
Sullivan.
I asked for more time, I didn't get it, so I think what I'm going to have to do is put my faith in the PUC. No.
Testa.
No.
Zandri.
Yes.
Chairman Cervoni.
No. Thank you, gentlemen.
Thank you.
On to item 12, discussion regarding Wallingford Street Light Maintenance Program. Councilor Zandri, this is your item. We do have the police chief here, if you'd like to chime in.
Sure. Thank you, Mr. Chairman. So obviously this came as, this has been an ongoing thing that my father has brought to the attention of the council a number of times. It's also something I've seen on my own with respect to the number of lights that are functional and non-functional, the issues surrounding who's responsible to be turning these in. Should it always rest on the utility commission, who has to subscribe overtime to get these things inspected? Residents who are out, you know, it's one thing in my neighborhood to take a photo of a telephone pole where the lights are out and then turn in the number the next day. You know, so I wanted to get a little bit of a quasi report out, maybe see how we're doing, and get a little feedback from the entities that are dealing with it. I know that a lot of times the situation and the conversation is that, you know, Northford's got this little segment and they turn in a lot, and we have so much more and we've got them off. And so I wanted to maybe quantify that, how accurate it is or it isn't. I mean, it does become very frustrating when, you know, I myself walk downtown a lot, and at nighttime I see what lights are out. My father's had an ongoing list for a number of years as well. Other people have reported it as well. My main concern is there are actually a few main concerns. I mean, obviously it's a safety issue if the lights are out. You know, whether it's the person walking down the street or questionable activity going around where a corner is a little darker than it normally is. It's a situation of safety for the resident. Again, it's one thing for me to go take the number down in my neighborhood. It's another thing to stop on Cook Hill Road at this hour of night because two lights in series are out and try to do the right thing and take a snapshot of it. Between what's on the website for reporting streetlight failures and a memo that I got today, I have conflicting information. So the website indicates you can call the system clerk between 7 and 3 to turn in a light, and this memo says you can call 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. So I kind of want to get a little clarification on that. At least that piece of it would make it a little bit easier, because obviously if you're walking by this hour of the night and you happen to have it top of mind, if you try to wait till tomorrow morning when you're rushing to work, getting your coffee and starting your workday, you're going to forget all about the street lights. So that's kind of like the opening reasoning why I put the item up there. I know that the police department has been questioned on a number of times of why aren't they doing it, and I don't believe that they're not, but if we can get a report out, and thank you, Chief, for being here so we can kind of get the information. And, you know, again, we were also handed this this evening with respect to the number of lights that have been turned in. So, you know, maybe just for the benefit of the fact that the chief is here, I can kind of let him talk a little bit to the work that the department's already doing.
Good evening, Mr. Chairman, Madam Clerk, Chief William Wright of the Police Department. The long and short of the efforts that we put forth are, I would say, inconsistent at best. It's very sporadic, the time that we have to dedicate to the issue that you bring forward. We are very busy. I looked at our numbers before I came over here this evening, and we are tracking somewhere around 34,000 or 35,000 calls for service this year. Much of, if you're out late at night, much of the Route 5 corridor, believe it or not, is now 24 hours. Certainly our big box stores down there are 24 hours, some of our restaurants, most of our convenience stores. We are very, very busy in that area. And to specifically dedicate resources to this issue that we speak of tonight, I would offer you that on most nights, there is just not the time. I just don't have the resources to simply dedicate to this. Now, that's not to say that where and when we come across these lights, we take note of them, but I will offer you that it's very inconsistent.
All right, thank you, Chief. And that's probably honestly, that's the answer I expected. I mean, the primary, I wouldn't even put it in the top 10 primary duties that an officer on patrol would have, you know, for doing this stuff like this. But I think the key point is what you said is that when they've got the ability to do it, they have been doing it. It's just that they're not tasked. And there isn't a slow night where they're out doing it. Some of the information that I got here, I kind of want to read this out because, maybe it seems as if nothing's getting done. And again, when it's consistent series of lights that are out, it certainly feels that way. The memorandum came from the Director of Public Utilities, George Adair, and I'll read it really quick. It says that over the past 12 calendar months, from last August to July, the electric division did 916 streetlight repairs, and that's about 76 per month. So the work's getting done. There are telephone reports from customers about failed streetlights, and I have to believe that's a lot of where they get these lineups of lights to be taken care of. On top of that, there's 3 times during the year that the division, I'm assuming, schedules some overtime and has a crew out intentionally and dedicated to taking a look at, non-functioning streetlights. It looks like it takes place in mid-October, mid-December, and mid-February. And personally, those times of year, I like the idea because I think the lights are possibly a lot more affected by the weather. Any cracks in the housing and precipitation gets in and freezes and expands and melts, it's going to cause malfunctions. And those are the times of the year that it's darker longer, and you're going to need those lights. The inconsistent identification of when you can call is noted here. It says the very same telephone number, which is 203-294-2273, is outlined as being able to take the calls 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. The last I knew was the same information that was on the website, which is 7 to 3. So now if they've got some sort of system in place for recording the information, that would be fantastic, because I think that's another add-on to what we're trying to accomplish here. And they also, to the credit of the director, outlined, kind of what their backlog is. And they actually identified that their backlog seldom exceeds 2 or 3 weeks. So, in the grand scheme of the work that has to get done by the electric division, any normal time of year, I don't know that that's too bad. I mean, I've personally called and had them come inside of a week, and I've had a situation after a small thunderstorm where it took them a couple of weeks. But again, based on other work and activity that they have, I guess that can be expected. So the only question that I have, Chief, is, you did mention that the effort was inconsistent. And I don't want to oversimplify the ability to have it be more consistent, and I already make the assumption that you've done this, but I could ask you the question anyway, so you'll have to apologize. I have to apologize for even having to ask it. It's inconsistent because of demand, workforce, and what's going on. And I make the assumption, and you can just let me know, you've probably taken a look at it in the matter of what needs to get done. And it's probably about as good as it's going to get given workload, workforce, and things that are going on. I would suspect we're probably about as efficient as it can probably get with our workforce. Would that be a fair assessment?
That's fair.
Okay. So I guess, to the item, which I put up because I know there was, public input, mainly the big issue was my father, but, there have been other people that have contacted me as such. I'm satisfied that we're getting some work done on this. I can't say that I would want it more organized because it looks about as organized as it's going to get from the electric division side. I don't think the police department can do more with the staffing that they've got, because I think they're at maximum capacity to do something extra, which this is an extra task. I would have to believe that they make exceptions, like if they're dealing with an area that's a problem area and they notice lights are out, I'm sure they're looking at that going, we're always in this neighborhood, there's always an issue, and this light's out. I'm sure it pops into their head, and I'm sure they take action on it. So, I don't think we can be asking much more, and I appreciate the report out because it kind of proactively answered a lot of the questions I probably would have had for you. So, really, Mr. Chairman, at this point, I didn't really have anything more to deliver out, and I don't have any more questions. So, I guess I would turn it back over to you for, council action.
Thank you. Any comments, questions from the council? Any comments or questions from the public? Mr. Zandri.
Gino Zandri, 9 Balsam Ridge Circle. This topic's been an ongoing topic with me for about 3 years now. And I had to come here tonight a little bit late, so fortunately I was able to check the streetlights on Center Street again, and there's still 14 of them out. So first question I have is for the chief. And the chief, have you instructed all your patrolmen that work the night shift that if they have time to, and they see a light out, to report it?
Not in that manner.
Okay, because recently I talked to a patrolman that's uptown here, and I went up to him and I asked him a simple question. I said, sir, do you ever work the night shift? He said, yes. I said, you ever been instructed to, if there's a street light out, to report it? He said, no. So in my mind, if we're going to get assistance from the police department, which I think this is where this duty belongs, if they're not instructed to do this, they're not going to do it. And I constantly go down to the electric division and check with Peggy down there regarding if Wallingford police ever turn any lights in. The first 6 months of this year, the answer was no, not one light. Northford is consistent. They're between 10, 12, 15 lights every single month from their police department. And they got a small little town compared to Wallingford. Yet Wallingford can't turn in one, not one. So I don't think the effort is being made by the police department to help us remedy the problem that we have. And these lights on Center Street, if we can't even keep the lights on Center Street on, and they've been out now for weeks and weeks, because I was at this council, I brought this up before, within the last month that these lights are out. So we can't even keep the lights on our front door. And we think that we're going to keep it on through the whole town. And unless we get some assistance from the police department, you could just forget this. It's just not going to work. For some reason, in this town, we can't get cooperation from people that should be giving us cooperation. And I'm tired of it. I'm tired of it because I've been arguing about this for 3 years and can't get anything done in this town. And I'm sick and tired of it. A simple thing like this, and we can't get any help.
Mr. Zandri, I understand you're upset.
I am upset because I've been bringing this up, and I can't get any cooperation whatsoever. And it's simple. It's not a hard thing. I did a lot of research. There's usually 6 police cars out every single night. You know what I'm asking? Have them pick up 1 light per night per patrolman. 1. It would take them 5 minutes to do that. And at the end of the month, you'd be turning in about 180 lights that are out. After about 6 months, we'd have this thing licked, and then it would be a lot easier going forward. So unless we get cooperation, this thing is not going to get done. And the thing that bothers me is there's no reason why we can't solve this problem in this town. And I'm just tired of it. Thank you.
Any other members of the public care to comment? Councilor Sullivan.
Yeah. I never felt it was the police department's job to count streetlights. And I don't take the same position as Mr. Zandri. I think the police have plenty on their plate every night. We don't know what they're staffed. Crime rate here is far different than Northford, Connecticut. I think if we want to look to someone to provide an answer, we have to look to the electric division and to the mayor. They have a plan in place, but I also think it's every resident's duty that lives in this town to report streetlights. Do we have a perfect tool in place to do it? I don't think so, not with modern technology. I've already talked to Sal Menzo, and he said his team could put a web app together pretty quick that could make identifying and reporting streetlights out by any resident a heck of a lot faster than calling up by phone and looking for the phone number. Are there alternatives? Absolutely. Absolutely alternatives. But in my mind, the police department is not one of them. I will never, today, tomorrow, next week, or next year, put the chief to task that they need to report streetlights out. Won't do it. We've got to come up with it. I'm not going to disagree that we need them reported, Mr. Zandri. We do. It becomes a safety issue. We need the town streets lit for good reason. But I don't think we can hold the police department strictly accountable for that. This is a community issue, not a police issue. Everyone needs to report streetlights when they're out. Thank you.
Any other comments?
Mr. Chairman, just from an administrative standpoint, the police department is a critical element for public safety. You know, I think we generally feel we have safe streets, walk around downtown, people feel secure. The men and women of the police department are supplying that very necessary and very good service. So this is one of those things that does require all of the public, as Mr. Sullivan mentioned. The period lights themselves seem to be prone to not longevity, but frequent outages. We've seen that in the past. Hopefully when we go to the LEDs, there'll be greater longevity to the individual lights. But I certainly wouldn't want anyone in the police department to feel that tonight was a universal criticism of the service provided by that department, and I thank the chief for what they achieved.
Thank you, Mayor. Thank you, Chief, for participating in this discussion. With that, we will move on to the next item, item 13, which is a discussion regarding a report out from the Quinnipiac River Linear Trail Advisory Committee. We do have some representatives from the Trail Committee, if you'd like to come forward. And Councilor Zandri, once again, this is your item. Yep.
You might as well come up. Yeah.
Thank you for joining us. If you can remind us who you are for the record.
Sure. I'm Representative Mary Mashinsky. I'm co-chair of the Quinnipiac River Linear Trail Advisory Committee.
Thank you.
My co-chair is here.
Kathy Granucci, co-chair, Quinnipiac River Linear Trail Committee.
Thank you. Councilor Zandri.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Thank you for coming tonight. The main reason why I wanted to ask you here is because there's obviously been a lot of excitement around the trail since the new section opened up. Actually, I took advantage of walking on it with my kids before they left for Poland because they pulled back the construction gate and they didn't put it back. And so we figured it was okay to use, so we walked down, got all the way down to the far end, and we noticed some work still being done, so I turned my kids around. I said, we better go. And there were other people already up in that area. And then, of course, we had the official ceremony to open it up and, formally kick the phase off, which I'm sure a lot of residents are real happy about. I see a lot of use there. I go there as often as I can, not as much as I would like. And, with that use has a couple of issues have cropped up, which I'm sure you're aware of. And that was part of the reason why I asked you to come here to kind of give a little report out, because, I think some people don't realize that this has been an ongoing effort for decades. This didn't just pop up the past few years. Was it 1989 or 90 that this started?
1997. 1997 we first started.
97? Okay, I thought it was earlier for some reason, but I remember when it first started, and because I sat in on a couple of meetings and I didn't have the time to continue. This has been going on for over 20 years, and or coming on 20 years. And, there's been a lot of discussion about the egress on the far side over in Yalesville, and I think that's where a lot of the focus has been. So I thought maybe it might make sense for the committee to kind of outline how that came to be over there. In other words, the whole thing, I think some people, I think the issue is they don't understand how Fireworks Island came to be in its present state. You know, there's always discussion of who had the land, who granted it, what's the right of way, what's the situation, and I think that's maybe issue one. You know, maybe the nuances of that, because I mean, some of the discussion has been, well, why would we finish it if we didn't have a way to get people on and off by foot and by bicycle? And you know, the discussion always comes back, would you rather have not had us built the extension until every last I was dotted and T was crossed, where we thought maybe we could get a different agreement, and then if not, we've got this other plan. So I think some of the issue is maybe kind of define the area and then maybe talk about the plan B that's in place to kind of get us to where we're going.
We can give you an update on that, and thank you for asking us to come in, and thank you to the council for your interest. Phase 3 opened on July 9th after 10 years of permitting and less than 1 year to build it. We, the committee, were working with former town engineer John Thompson, and we were aware the town had legal access to Main Street, Yalesville, from Fireworks Island. The town acquired that through a warranty deed in 2004, and it laid out an agreement between the developer and the town. The developer needed sufficient parking to build Yalesville on the green and did not have it, and the developer obtained it by placing part of his parking on Fireworks Island. The town acquired, in return, the town acquired the northern part of Fireworks Island from the developer for future use as the trail. And the easement in the warranty deed guaranteed trail access to Main Street around the south side of the condo complex. There's a map that goes with the deed. The town was allowed motor vehicle access across Yalesville on the Greens Bridge to reach the town's land on Fireworks Island, as well as temporary construction access. Phase 3 is paid for by federal, state, and foundation and town engineering funds. The permitting produced surprises for the committee, and we had to redesign to overcome those new obstacles and surprises. For example, we found endangered species on the island. These delays and the redesign increased the cost of the project. So our funders asked us to see if we could share the existing bridge, if at all possible, with Yalesville on the Green. And if sharing was not possible, the committee knew that we would have to build our own bridge parallel to the condo association's bridge. So we were aware that that was a possible endpoint. Our committee prepared for the possibility of a parallel bridge by seeking out and winning a $150,000 grant, which is the amount that was deemed appropriate by former town engineer John Thompson and was in fact the cost of the existing timber bridge that is owned by Yalesville on the Green. So that number seemed accurate. So that we did get the grant, and meanwhile we were also pursuing federal and state funds for the half-loop trail that will connect the senior center to the main linear trail, and those funds are in place. This year, as the construction was ongoing, we got an engineering surprise. Our new town engineer, Rob Beltramitis, contacted the committee and told us that the engineering study for the second parallel bridge had come in, and the study determined the bridge had to be very long and high to get above the floodway. We were very surprised by this, and we questioned why we had a more complicated bridge, why it had to be so expensive and high. And we learned at that point from Rob that the FEMA floodway map is in error. So the map shows the canal as the entire floodway, but in reality, the Quinnipiac River splits at Fireworks Island and passes on either side. So part of the flood volume passes through the canal, and part of the flood volume passes through the natural river bed, which is on the east side. The canal is on the west side. So this was why, because of this error, the engineers said that the bridge had to be more complicated. We spoke to the developer this summer, and the shared bridge is not possible because of opposition at Yalesville on the green, but we did ask. So now we're on Plan B. We're working with the town engineer, Rob Baltramitis, and we have agreed with him that spending part of the bridge grant to fix the map error is the most efficient way to move forward. Then we can proceed with a short bridge, which is similar to the one that's there now, and is affordable under our grants. And Rob Baltramitis is preparing the scope of work so that we can get the bids on that. So the current status is that temporarily, most trail users can access Fireworks Island using their motor vehicle. Trail users without motor vehicles cannot cross the association's bridge legally. They will gain pedestrian access with the new parallel bridge. And permitting agencies, Department of Transportation and the Department of Energy and Environmental Protection are supporting solving this problem. They were very supportive at the opening day and are going to help us get this done. It may take 12 months to fix the floodway designation. It may also be possible to get a letter of map amendment, or LOMA, which is a quicker process. And I can't tell you yet which one we'll be able to get.
All right, so I guess I can't say the best case scenario. At least it's going to take at least 12 monhes to get this.
Or if we get a letter of map amendment, it might not take.
So it might be faster, but
Yeah.
a good base expectation would be, 12 months. Maybe sooner if we can get that.
Yeah, we're working with Rob on this and leaving it to him to write the scope of the engineering that we need. He's the engineer, we're not, so we're trusting Rob to write the scope.
So I know another question that's come up, and I've looked around by foot. Once you cross that bridge with a car, there's all that crushed shell parking. Now, is all of that parking for trail users, or is it a mixed parking, or is there a section there that belongs to the association only?
Yes, when you cross the bridge, the parking to your left belongs to the association. Parking to your right, near the kiosk, belongs to the town of Wallingford.
So I looked there 2 weeks ago, and there wasn't any signage. Has there been any signage that indicates that?
Rob did order the signs, as far as I'm aware. He has ordered the signs.
And that's really important for me to get put up there, because the issue that I have is that if the residents there have an issue with people using the bridge as a footbridge, and it's within their right to complain about that because it is their bridge.
Right.
The last thing I want to have is somebody going over the bridge in the car and parking to the left, because then they will complain that there are pedestrians, trail pedestrians parking in our parking. And again, they would be within their right to complain about that, but I'm trying to resolve the issues that I see that are going on over there. So I think signage is key.
Mm-hmm.
And another piece of signage, and again, if it's gone up in the past 2 weeks, I wouldn't know about it, is walking off the trail. There should be some identifier at the point where you could step off the shell bed onto the bridge, that it's private property and should not be crossed on foot.
I agree, and Rob agrees, and I know he has ordered the signs. I don't know if they're up yet, because I haven't been there in the last 2 weeks either, so.
Maybe I can just help. Rob has informed me that there are 3 signs to the left showing the condominium, the association parking, 3 signs outlining where the public parking is. There are also additional signs coming off the street indicating that it is motor vehicle access only, not pedestrian. So I believe the signs are up, they're out there.
Okay, great, because I know that was a problem before. So I mean, my kids are coming home tomorrow, so we're going to take a walk this weekend, and I can get back to you. But that's another thing that I want to make sure that it's real clear. I mean, there were no trespassing signs before, and they weren't adhered to, which is what prompted a lot of this problem. Because people thought they weren't trespassing, they were walking along a right-of-way to use the trail, and it wasn't defined that it was for motor vehicle traffic only. Now, since then, a lot of awareness has come up regarding the situation over there, and that's why I had kind of asked for the report out from you, and I appreciate you coming tonight, because this will help just shine more of a spotlight on it, what's going on currently, what's being addressed, like the signage, and, you know, where we're going from here. And, you know, the next piece of it is to get that actual walkway to come around the other side. Because the last time I used it, which again was 2 weeks ago, I encountered people discussing right at the sign for Fireworks Island. They wanted to go across and get something to drink down the road at the gas station or even stop at the pizza place. You can't walk off.
Correct, but it is temporary, and the committee is working with the town engineer to get that last piece in place.
Right. And that's, you know, again, that's another piece of why I wanted you to come here today, is I wanted to clearly define that to the people that are watching at home or the people that will read it tomorrow in the Record Journal. And then, of course, to capture that timeline that it's, you know, it's coming down.
Okay.
Mayor, I just want to make sure everyone realizes the year timeline is just to correct a map. That is not having the bid specs, the money, et cetera, in place in order to actually put a bridge there. So hearing the year, I don't want people to interpret that as, oh, a year from now there'll be a pedestrian bridge there. Chances are, you know, hopefully we'll have the map change, but that necessitates a whole design of a bridge, et cetera.
It's a very good point, given the mayor's comments. If it took a year to address the FEMA problem, what is the likelihood time period to get the bridge up, built, and accessible by the people?
Not sure. I'd have to talk to the town engineer to give you an idea. The developer of the original bridge actually has a plan for the second one already. If we took his design, then we would just purchase the kit and put it in. The bridges on the trail are all kit bridges. They come ready to drop into place from the manufacturer.
But permitting will be necessary along the waterway. I don't know about the state agencies, but probably wetlands. They'll be working in order to put the bridge supports in, I would imagine. The other part of it is the easement to the south along the edge of the association property. All of that has to be constructed and put in place. So there's, you know, it's not as much as has been put out before, but there is work that has to be designed and ultimately constructed.
Mr. Chairman, I don't have any more input myself, so I turn it over to you to allow other councilors if they have any questions.
Certainly. Councilor Testa.
Thank you. Hi, good evening. Thank you very much for your patience tonight. So I just want to understand the intent will be to put in a pedestrian bridge, not another large vehicle bridge.
Correct.
So vehicle access will continue as it is now, correct?
Yeah, vehicles
That
can
won't
use-
change. We're not trying to change that. So in order to accommodate walkers and people on bicycles, going to be putting in a smaller pedestrian-type bridge, and there's going to be a different area where walkers and bikers can get through, and that's the area to the south that the mayor's referring to, the other right-of-way.
Yep.
Because you're basically going to just build another little trail, or sidewalk, for the lack of a better term, to the street where we have a right-of-way directly to the south of the condo property.
Yes.
Was it, and what's right, was it kind of butt up against the commercial
Well,
building
it's,
there?
yeah, it's 12 feet.
Yeah.
It's a 12 feet wide.
So between their property and whatever, the bakery or the pizza place, whatever it is today, there's an area there. Do you have an idea where that bridge might go? I'm just curious, is it going to be right next to the existing bridge or a little closer to the south end of the property?
Well, it has to meet up with the easement, so,
Right. That's the thing I'm thinking about.
Yeah.
So somewhere along the way there.
the
Okay.
current bridge that's there now does not meet up with the easement.
Yeah, that's where I'm getting
But the
at.
parallel bridge will meet up with the easement.
Right, so it's going to be further south downstream.
South of the, correct, downstream of the
Okay.
current bridge. And it's a,
For lack of a better place, I remember I've been there, maybe around where the kiosk is, for example. That's kind of, or in that direct kind of area, that might be where it crosses. So you'll say when you leave the trail, walkers and bikers go this way, drivers as you wish.
and it's a smaller width bridge. because
Right.
It's only for pedestrians.
That's when I said pedestrian, that's what I meant. It's going to be a, whatever, 5-6 feet or whatever it has to be to accommodate wheelchairs and so forth. Okay. Well, I know you're on the case. I know it's been a nightmare for you, but great job getting where you've gotten so far. It's beautiful. The kiosk, the turnaround, the whole thing. With my affliction, I haven't been able to do much walking on it, but I'll get there on a bike when I know I can get off. Thanks.
We appreciate the council's support.
I did want to make one comment that at Coffee with a Cop on August 13th, I did speak with Chief Wright, and he mentioned, that although at the very beginning there was so much excitement when we had the grand opening, and there were some people who were, leaving the little pedestrian bridge and crossing into the parking lot, but that, as of that day, that the calls had really diminished and everything, all the conflict had really quieted down, and people were figuring out that, the trail logically ends where it does right now. And we're getting the word out as much as we can, too, that, we're working on the egress, and with additional signage, we're going to, get that message out. So thank you for your support.
The committee's here with us. They've able to overcome everything so far, and I have faith that the committee will get this one fixed, too.
They're all wearing their nice badges.
Yep.
And T-shirts, I see. Thank you. Councilor Fishbein.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Good evening, Mary, Kathy. Nice to see you again. As you know, I was there for the opening of the partially completed Phase 3, and it is beautiful. I've also spoken to some of the residents over there who were quite distressed that first weekend. I mean, even myself, when I parked in there, I thought, oh, great, this whole great parking lot, and only to find out that it's not this whole great parking lot for this situation. So other than well, let me start here. I know there's at least 2 plans for this project. One had 1 bridge and one had 2 bridges as far as this pedestrian access way. Which one are we working off of now?
2 bridge.
Okay.
We were unable to get shared use of the existing bridge, so we're going to have to build a second one.
Well, I believe both plans showed a bridge having to be done for the pedestrian walkway. Neither of those plans incorporated use of the existing bridge.
Well, because we had to make so many design changes in Phase 3, we didn't have as much money left for the final bridge. And our funders said, why don't you see if you can share the bridge that's already there, rather than building another one right next to it. So we did
Our funder
try.
being the state, or?
Well, the foundation in particular asked us to, but also the agency said, if you can work it out, it would be more cost effective. So we did try, but didn't work, so.
Well, I understand that, and it's sort of it's a bad argument because by that time, the horse is out of the barn, and you would think that if that was contemplated at all, you'd have those discussions at the very beginning. That's part of planning. We put the plan together, how much do we need, we go get the money.
Yep.
We don't in retrospect, although I see that a lot of times with government, try and figure this stuff out at the end. So I don't blame the residents at all for expressing their private property rights and all of that. So they should not be found at fault here at all. But just to go back to my prior question, the two plans that have been bandied about, neither one of them incorporated on paper utilization of the bridge that's owned by Yalesville Commons.
No, we had been asking all along to use their bridge, share it, and they had all along been saying no. So
Okay.
it was pretty clear to us, and that's why we applied for.
Dealing with Yalesville Commons or Donna
Yeah.
Hearn, the developer?
No, the Yalesville and the Green, we had meetings over there with the town engineer present, and it was pretty clear they did not want to share the bridge. We asked several times. But the funders did ask us one more time, to try one more time, see if you can share the bridge, and it, again, didn't work, so.
Okay, so now I'm hearing that we're dealing with not one pedestrian access bridge, but two.
No.
Okay, so that was one of the first questions. So,
No, the existing timber bridge has a pedestrian walkway on it separated from the vehicles. And what we were trying to see is if we could share use of that, flip the bridge around so that the pedestrian walkway would be on the south side and the vehicle part would be on the north side. And that way it would line up better with the easement.
okay,
But it was not acceptable.
understood. So presently, our completion of the pedestrian walkway is anticipated to incorporate how many bridges?
We just need one bridge to take the pedestrians and the bicycles across the canal and not interfere with the other routes.
It's sloped up, and it goes down into the gully, over the little piece of river, and then back up. It's just over that portion.
Yeah, it just crosses the canal.
Okay. And this is just a footbridge. So how wide? Because the pedestrian footbridge that's connected to the existing bridge is not very wide at all.
Right.
6
Well,
feet?
I'm thinking it's 12, but I'm not the engineer. Town engineer could give you a better estimate, but I believe it's 12.
Just to clarify, this bridge will not go down the ravine, cross the water, and then up the other bank. It will be a span across that. I can't imagine that we're going to put a little culvert crossing at the bottom. So it'll be a span. It would never meet any kind of ADA requirements without that. The other issue is, in 2004, I believe you indicated, Mary, when we purchased the property, this issue was taken up, and the developer was very decided at that point. No walking through the ultimate association property. That's why the deed reads the way it does. So this issue has been hanging out there since 2004, and there have been multiple discussions along the way afterwards. But it was identified from the very beginning, and those were the terms under which the town acquired title to the Fireworks Island. Otherwise, we wouldn't have title.
Oh, agreed. And there were some comments in the newspaper that made the residents look in a bad light. And in my speaking with some of the residents, they have taken great offense at that perception. That's all. So
They purchased their property, obviously, from the developer. The developer made it very clear from the beginning, no access through the association property. The residents there are entirely in the right in saying, there's nothing new here. We've protected this, and we don't want the general public coming through our property.
Okay, so just going back to this bridge, that looking at the pedestrian bridge that's currently there, the pedestrian portion, you're saying is approximately 12 feet wide?
No,
Okay.
the new bridge, and again, this is more a question for Rob Beltermitis, but I think the new bridge is likely to be 12 feet wide, because aren't the existing ones 12? I think they are.
Because
I think the ones that are up now are 12.
Okay. So, and the mayor correctly states you don't need to go, the bridge doesn't have to go the whole length, it's just to cross that span.
Yeah.
So about how long are we looking at?
I have the map here of the canal, and it may have the distance across it. Okay, 1 inch is 40 feet.
The Boy Scouts build it.
If you don't,
Like maybe 40 plus 20, maybe.
Yeah,
60.
okay, that's about what I got. So, it's your understanding that this 40 by 20 bridge is going to cost in excess of $150,000?
Donna Hearn thought you could build it for 80,000.
Yeah.
The previous one, which is more complex and carries vehicle weight,
Yeah.
was 150.
Yes,
But that
which
was-
doesn't apply because we're not doing vehicles here, we're doing
Right, so it
pedestrians and
should be-
bicycles.
This should be less expensive than the type of bridge that's there already. But then years have gone by and the prices change.
Okay, and that can be done without changing the FEMA maps, correct?
No, we cannot put the simple pedestrian bridge in the way we intended to unless we change where the floodway is located on the FEMA map. The floodway is incorrect. It only shows half the split. The other half of the floodway is not depicted in the FEMA map. So that means the FEMA people think the entire river flows through the canal. And obviously that changes the engineering.
And what are the reasonable prospects of that getting changed? Because, I mean, I know
Well,
the
if you're-
residents out there would like,
If you ground truth it, if the engineers go to the site and redo the engineering, they can show that it's what it really is doing there. And if we can get a LOMA, a letter of engineering jargon, if we can get a letter of map amendment, it's a quicker process.
because I know, was it like 4 years ago, we had a problem in town, and there was a lot of talk in the legislature about the FEMA maps being off and the flood maps being off, and there was attempts to change that, and those attempts were not fulfilled.
I don't know about that case that you're talking about, but I do know that, having talked to the Council of Governments, the Regional Planning Agency office, about map errors, and they said, yeah, there are map errors. And I said, well, when there is one, who's responsible to fix it? Or do the feds pay for fixing it? And they said, no, the town that wants it fixed, or the project that wants it fixed, has to fix the map.
There are a lot of unknowns with this. The bridge that would have had to have been built, given it was all a floodway, was close to $1 million. So what will be the price and the ultimate design of a bridge that is in place of that with a change in the FEMA map, from my perspective, is a completely open question. I was shocked by what they were talking about in terms of the cost of the bridge if the map isn't changed. So I think we're into a discussion that is so open-ended that it's only going to distort or perhaps mislead people.
I can tell you
There's a lot
that,
that has to be done.
I'm just concerned that, now we've opened this up, And, you know, there's already been altercations between residents there and members of the public. And, you know, when they call me and they ask me about the prospects, I don't have an answer, and I'm not getting any answers.
I will give you the answer as clear as I can make it. The overly priced, the crazy priced bridge is based on an erroneous FEMA map. If we fix the FEMA map with some of our bridge money, then we can build a simple bridge, which the DEP person on the site told us might be as low as 40,000. The developer thinks it might be 80,000. And the previous town engineer thought it might be 150. But we're talking much more affordable.
Well, I know, and I wish all of this stuff had happened before, but where, from the access way, pedestrian access way on Main Street to this Phase 3, where is the trail intended to go from there?
From Main Street?
Yeah, because now you've connected pedestrian and bike access to Main Street. Once this is completed, where is it going?
There are any number of possible routes. The easiest one is probably to go up Chapel Street. But it doesn't have to go that way.
Chapel Street or Church, Chapel?
Chapel.
I can't think of where Chapel Street is in Yalesville, but.
There's a little triangle junction.
Oh, okay, so with that little restaurant, okay. So is it, because one of the questions asked of me was, you know, why is it even going over here at all? You know,
Oh,
why
it's
not
to
just
connect
go?
the two parts of Wallingford. You have, now Yalesville will be connected to Wallingford.
But you could go, I know Cobra Automotive had given access so that work could be done. You're at the southern end of that. I'm just, why, I mean, I guess you answered the question. That's the intent. I know people are flipping out up here, but I had to listen to Mr. Zandri for a while.
Let's not play that game.
Okay.
Focus.
Trying.
I see that.
One of the other questions that was asked of me was the pedestrian access way, once completed, is supposed to have some sort of structure on either side of it. And what is the intent for what that's made out of? Is it going to be, because I know people that live there recreate, picnic, that kind of stuff behind what is known as Building 4. And there's a concern that, you know, chain link fence is going to be there, for instance. What is the intent?
I think what we need to do is meet with the residents and make sure the kind of fence is acceptable to them. Some people have mentioned they like to be separated, and chain link fences works for that, but some people have also mentioned they'd like something more decorative, and chain link fence is not decorative, so I guess the best thing is for us and the town engineers to, and the town engineer to meet with the residents, see what they would prefer.
As security issues come in and the town uses chain link fence, we can put slats in it.
Right.
But anything else is a heavy maintenance issue, and certainly anyone could build a fence on the other side of that if they want to, but the town deals with chain link fences in order to maintain the security. They're strong. Slats can make them more opaque, but I wouldn't be promising that we're going to be able to put in anything other than what we generally use.
No, I'm not, I agree with what you're saying. It's just that sometimes you can put a decorative fence parallel to the chain link fence and make it look nicer from the perspective of the residents.
How much money has already been spent on Phase 3?
2.4? Yeah, 2.4 million. It's all grants that we have competed for and won.
I know, I would have expected that a lot of this stuff would have been talked about, worked out before we're spending millions of dollars, but
No,
I mean, it looks, what's there looks nice.
Yep.
But, I mean, certainly we have private property concerns, and I don't know. But thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Any other comments from the council? Sullivan, you did tell me earlier.
Yeah, I know, but it was so long ago, you probably forgot.
True.
Yeah. Hey, let me say this to the committee. You took what was a barren wasteland and you turned it into something really nice. What would the ideal situation have been? It would have been to restore Community Lake, obviously. I think we all wanted that. We just waited too long, and sure enough, environmental laws changed, and we were kind of stuck with what we had, right? But you followed up, you made a tremendous, tremendous community place for people to exercise and discover that part of what's left of Community Lake. And to the people in the condos, you know what? Buyer beware, because that agreement had been in place, Mayor, you said to 2004? So buyer beware too. If you did your homework, you probably would have seen that the trail was coming through. I just wanted to say nice job. And don't look in the rearview mirror at all these little hiccups that happened in this last phase. Full steam, look through the windshield and keep moving forward on this. And don't let these little obstacles get you down. Keep doing what you're doing. You're doing a great job. I talk to friends all the time, and they love the trail. Once the communication went out and people understood they could not use pedestrian or bicycles to go over there, it was fine. It was fine. Just all I want to say is keep doing what you're doing. I'm not going to get down into the minutia of the material of the bridge or how long it is. So far, you haven't failed us. Just keep doing what you're doing. Thank you.
Can I go out to the public first?
Sure.
Any members of the public care to speak on this? Seeing none, Councilor Fishbein.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Just about the signs. The signs are up. That's our job, is to put the sign, like the no trespassing. The three signs on the bridge are on the bridge. Once they get to those signs, they're already trespassing. So they should be before you get to the bridge. So just so that you, I mean, I don't know. And though I couldn't see the one in the parking lot. So I don't know.
Right, we'll mention to Rob, maybe he should contact you
There's
directly.
signs going into the property.
I got to tell you, I didn't see
I
it.
drove by that property several times, and the signs are
Yeah.
right, yeah.
I saw
and
them on
they're
the
pretty
bridge.
good size, too. They're right there.
How many, is there one or two?
There's two on each side. Yeah, there's multiple signs.
All right, well, maybe.
We
I was
don't
just
have to hold
blind that
people's
day.
hands. They can figure it out.
Okay. I actually went there too, so.
I've walked
thank
it
you.
several times. I didn't see any of you people there, by the way.
I've walked it too, so. That's all I had. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you. Thank you for coming and reporting. Thank you for all the work you've done so far. It truly is a great project.
It's a labor of love for the committee. We have been very enthusiastic about it, and even when we get a setback, we just rally and keep going, and
Clearly you do, and this council is happy to
it's a
support you.
labor of love for us.
Councilor Testa.
Right. There is no pedestrian nor bicycle access over the existing bridge, correct?
Right.
So it's not just the parking lot? Okay.
It's the
So I
bridge.
was going to ask, if I could get over the bridge, can I use the other easement, even though it's not prepared yet? But you know, because you couldn't get across if you were walking or biking.
You're,
You can't
gonna have
leave
to
the
come by-
parking lot.
You're going to have to come by car
No, I appreciate that.
for the
I got
near
it.
future until we get
Yeah,
this.
I got it. So you're
All right, thank you again, and thank you for attending. Thank you for your report. Thank you for your work.
With that, we're on to item 14.
Mr. Chairman, I move we go into executive session pursuant to Connecticut General Statutes Section 1-225F and Section 1-206B regarding strategy and negotiations with respect to the following pending litigation: Bristol Myers Squibb Company versus Town of Wallingford, Wallingford Associates of Connecticut versus Town of Wallingford, and Town of Wallingford versus Vernon Sancuno.
Second.
Moved and seconded. All those in favor of going into executive session signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Hearing none, I declare the council in executive session. Please kindly clear the chambers. Call the meeting back to order. Is there a motion to come out of executive session?
I move we come out of executive session.
Second.
Moved and seconded. All those in favor of coming out of executive session signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Hearing none, I declare the council back in public session. And,
Mr. Chairman, I move we authorize a settlement in the pending tax appeal in the matter of Wallingford Associates of Connecticut versus Town of Wallingford, as discussed in executive session.
Second.
Moved and seconded. Any discussion on the motion? Any comments from the public? Hearing none. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Hearing none, the motion carries. I'll entertain a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Moved and seconded. All those in favor of adjournment signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Hearing none, I declare the meeting adjourned.